Ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday. Get ready for a huge transmission. But first, a powerful report by John Bound on how sick the left is dealing with the London Bridge attack.
The latest issue of the Islamic State's weekly newspaper, Al-Naba, released 2 days ago, warned that another terrorist attack in Britain was definitely coming. Al-Naba, a 16-page color newsletter, is distributed within ISIS territory, but it is also posted and distributed online via the usual ISIS mediums, such as Telegram and social media. This according to PJ Media. England's Prime Minister Theresa May has responded to the online availability of ISIS threats.
We cannot allow this ideology the safe space it needs to breed. Yet that is precisely what the internet and the big companies that provide internet-based services provide. We need to work with allied democratic governments to reach international agreements that regulate cyberspace to prevent the spread of extremist and terrorism planning. And we need to do everything we can at home to reduce the risks of extremism online.
While the mayor of London called for people to not be alarmed that innocent people were being mowed over and stabbed by Islamic terrorists in the heart of London.
Well, just like terrorists are constantly evolving, finding new ways to disrupt us, harm us, attack us, the police and experts and all of us are finding new ways to keep us safe. Londoners will see an increased police presence today and over the course of the next few days. No reason to be alarmed.
Clearly, there is reason to be alarmed. Apparently, even with a warning, there's just so much UK police can safeguard against while the general public remains defenseless. The terror attack began on London Bridge around 10 p.m. as tourists and pedestrians stopped to take photos of the scenic landscape. Out of nowhere, a van reaching speeds of 50 miles per hour plowed through the bystanders, killing 7 and wounding over 45. The 3 attackers, wearing fake suicide belts, then continued to Borough Market, where they got out of the van and began stabbing people.
The terrorists were confronted and shot by armed officers within 8 minutes of the police receiving the first emergency call.
Eyewitnesses reported hearing the attackers say, "This is for Allah." Regardless, mainstream media dragged its feet on labeling it as terrorism. As the gruesome details unfolded, President Trump tweeted, "We need to be smart, vigilant, and tough. We need the courts to give us back our rights. We need the travel ban as an extra level of safety." The response from the left was predictable. CNN host Reza Aslan tweeted, "This piece of shit is not just an embarrassment to America and a stain on the presidency, he's an embarrassment to humankind." And a group of Muslims in a bizarre show of solidarity prayed in front of Trump Tower.
And we are here in front of the Trump Tower, which is just really a symbol of the kind of policies and the divisiveness and the hatred that we have seen come out of this administration that has really led to divisiveness of our communities or to divide our communities. And here we're showing this is what New York City looks like. People, black people, brown people, progressive Jews and progressive white allies who have come here to say, we will break bread with you, we will stand in solidarity, we will embrace you, and we will stand with you against hate and divisiveness.
No, it's not the fact that there's no real response from any Islamic leaders while innocent people are killed and maimed on a regular basis. No, that wouldn't have anything to do with divisiveness. It's our president that's responsible. That's right. Our president calls for the protection of U.S. citizens from the possibility of events spiraling out of control as they are in the UK, and the left wants to rub tolerance in our faces.
I don't think that a major terrorist attack like this is the time to be divisive and to criticize a mayor who's trying to organize his city's response to this attack. The terrorists want us to live in a state of constant fear.
Why does the left have the power to condone the deaths of innocent people in what is clearly Islamic jihad, shielded by an ongoing taqiyya under the umbrella of the left's misguided and dangerous political correctness? John Bound for Infowars.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, CNN admits they were producing fake news. Now they're spinning it, but this is big. We'll show you the video straight ahead. We're on the march. The globalist empire is on the run. Thank you for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, on this live Monday, the 5th day of June 2017. We're going to be live here for the next 4 hours. Let me tell you who's coming up. Mike Cernovich and, of course, Mark Antro, who broke the incredible video of CNN staging news events in London in the aftermath of the latest weekly terror attack there on London Bridge. And, of course, one of our crew has worked at CNN. He obviously had non-disclosure, so he can't get into that. But when he worked at CNN, they told you specifically, do not do this. This is seriously unethical. Anybody taught journalism school knows this. If you're covering live events or whatever, you don't stage people. Now, CNN got caught. They're spinning it. It's all over the news. We first... Cernovich pushed it out yesterday. It went viral. We broke it basically at 4 o'clock yesterday. It went mega viral. Today, it's Fox News. You name it. CNN has responded saying, well, we were out there as news, but yes, then we saw a demonstration nearby and had them then come with the police and stand in front of the cameras with their signs. We have the footage. They're handing out the signs to them. They're clearly directing them. A lot of these people don't even look like they're really Muslims. The beards look fake. And CNN has been caught before staging Gulf War Scud chemical attack. That's admitted. They've been caught using green screens. CNN caught staging protests. It's up on drudgereport.com. It's also on Infowars.com. So they've been caught doing this over and over and over again. CNN caught staging fake news scene. Infowars.com, Mike Cernovich. So the whole facade covering up global government, covering up how the mainstream media is totally fake, is falling down. CNN has done this over and over again. It happened with Nancy Grace when she was out at the Newtown, Connecticut school shooting, where she's sitting there supposedly talking to somebody on satellite, and you can see the same cars are driving in circles on a cul-de-sac, and the same engine noises, everything. They're right there. There's footage of Cooper with his nose disappearing. But it's worse than that. They've got blue screen because you can see they only took like a 2-minute clip or something. So you see flowers moving one way at a memorial, and all of a sudden they, again, are moving the other because the wind's not constant. So you've got a loop where the wind's blowing, and then it ends because there's not a lot of wind, and the flowers are dead still. So they're waving, suddenly, boop, they all stop. And you can see it's an edit. Now, I don't know what happened at Newtown. I believe school shootings happen. I believe kids get killed. It's terrible. It's horrible. We've had debates where we've looked at both sides. It doesn't matter. What we're telling you is CNN is famous for faking stuff. That's coming up at the bottom of the hour. Megyn Kelly is going to be here tomorrow, and I've decided to do the interview. I've got a little bit cold feet a few times. It's exhausting. They're going to be here at 9 in the morning till 10 at night. They want to interview me at 8:30 at night at some house they've rented, and I'm going to be exhausted, and I know what they're doing. Everybody knows I go to bed at 9 o'clock. It's well known that I'm not, and so I'm just going to do it, and it should be interesting. She interviewed Putin. She told me a few weeks ago that her next big interview was Putin. She was going to leave to Russia. She did leave to Russia. She got the interview, and she told me I was her next interview, and then, of course, Trump's the next one after that, I guess. She told me that Trump and her have worked it all out. But I'm going to stop right there. I talked to her about 45 minutes, and she came off very, very nice, very, very flattering, very, very genuine sounding. But I just told myself, this is the Megyn Kelly that took a clip of me talking about Hillary being behind the jihadis in Libya and Syria, killing hundreds of thousands of people, including tens of thousands of children who were raped and murdered in many cases, and saying she's directly responsible for the murder and torture and rape of children. And they played it on Fox News with her saying I said that Hillary did it in some basement. When it was the front and the back of the clip were cut off. We played it here. Just like they played in my custody battle, Joe Rogan, where we say, we don't agree with Trump saying, women jump on you, can grab them. But It's not rape. It's just uncouth and not gentlemanly. If a woman is approaching and coming on to you, then it's not rape. It's not like he's in the bushes running out, grabbing at a woman's genitals. That's sexual assault. That was edited. It was played. The news media picked it up. Incredible. Incredible. And I'm going to leave it at that at this point, but down the road I'll be able to get more into this and more of what went on there because it's very important and very, very important that people know what the end result of that was. And that the many people on the jury have signed affidavits about the effect that had on them and the fact that they believe they were deceived. One quote was, "It's like a forced confession." But I'm going to stop right there because we've had a good outcome with the court, especially for the children, last Tuesday. And that's why you haven't heard anything about my custody case in the news. I do have liberals come up to me in Austin and say, "Aha, you lost your kids." And I don't even respond. I go, "Man, you're really a nasty person that you would sit there and say that to me while I'm pumping gas. Like that's some victory, as if that would be a good thing. And then it's not even true. The ruling didn't even say that. But that's how deceptive the fake news media is. That's how dangerous they are. I mean, just 9 years ago, the New York Times famously wrote in a review of a film called The New World Order that was on the Independent Film Channel that was 2 years off and on following me around. And I'm there at Bilderberg at Chantilly where they just met this weekend for the third time we've covered it. This big 5-star conference resort and golf course that's next door, right in the middle of all the big defense contractors. And I'm sitting there, and they're following us, and there's Marines in plain clothes and helicopters and Secret Service with MP5, H&Ks, and they said that I was insane and that there was no Bilderberg. Well, how's it feel now? DrudgeReport.com is linked to our story. Press coverage of Bilderberg, highest ever. Kit Daniels, Infowars.com. Bilderberg, more exposed than ever as Trump nationalism rises. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of major European newspapers, the BBC, the London Guardian, all covered it, and it forced, they wouldn't cover it Thursday and Friday, but by the time foreign news covered it, and Drudge linked to it, it forced U.S. newspapers to cover it as well. So isn't that interesting? The big shadow corporate government openly having to put out their agenda now, openly meeting 20-something miles from Trump, plotting how to overthrow him. That's come out. And now it's exposed. Just like CNN's been exposed. All it took was one person with a camera to see them out there with a huge dolly and professional lights. That's not news gathering in the daytime with big lights. And then directing with directors people over into the shot with clearly a director in front of them, getting them all ready and then shooting it. And then you see some of the other CNN people looking at the person filming and looking suspicious. This is 101. They even handed them the self-made little, signs are supposed to be self-made that look like independent people made them, and they're all basically cookie cutters handed out to them. This is unbelievable. With the cops there directing them and bringing them into the shot. Oh, look, the Muslims are upset about the terror. They don't criticize Islam. They just say, come together, put up with it, go along, don't be upset, keep the borders open. But since you can't really, get the real Muslims to come out and apologize or come out and say they don't support it, they literally had a guy get out there in an Osama bin Laden look-alike outfit, including the green army jacket, the exact turban, and the exact... they got an Osama bin Laden look-alike out there to say, see, even Osama bin Laden, a look-alike. It is a literal 6'3", 6'4" Osama bin Laden look-alike in green army jacket. You cannot make this up. With the cops all standing around, I'm like, they're the good guys. Meanwhile, if communists attack me in Cleveland and the police drag me to safety, they put on the news, Jones arrested. And still to this day, they show photos in newspapers of the police with their hands on my arms, supporting me and getting me out of the crowd to go, look, he's a criminal. Fake news, 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 fake news. Then they'll use us doing a correction every 6 months. Like, oh, look, he admits he's fake news. He did correction. When they have to do corrections every day in newspapers and on television. So CNN has come out. You can just type in CNN caught staging news. And okay, well, sure, we did direct the people. We did get them out in front. We did do it with this demonstration, but we do that all the time. No, you're not supposed to do that. That's staging things, and you know it. Now, is it as bad as saying Scud missiles were coming over to Tel Aviv and you were really in Atlanta, Georgia at CNN Center like they did in 1991? No, it's not as bad as that. You're absolutely right. It's not as bad as Anderson Cooper being in New York and claiming he was in Connecticut. And why do they do that? Why do they act like they're out in public when they're not? Because they know we're out there jumping on camera and bullhorning and making points, and that's why we have the contest, $200,000, that started to happen this weekend. A lot of great videos on Infowars.com. We're going to be posting in one area of folks getting the point out that CNN is backing ISIS, CNN backed the Arab Spring, CNN's fake news, you name it. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central, we're here live. Talk radio meets television, meets the Patriot Movement, meets 1776 worldwide. Again, I'm your host, Alex Jones. There is so much to get to here. Coming up in the next segment, we have the citizen who saw CNN staging the fake news with the fake demonstration, which they admit they were staging, but they go, oh, it was a real demonstration in the area. This violates all the rules of journalism. It's what they constantly do when the media only focuses on the handful of Muslims saying, let's have peace, let's come together. When down the street, there's, countless videos of folks celebrating it. This is how they distort. A lot of times they won't even say it's Muslims that have attacked. So that's coming up in the next segment. But right now, I want to go to this report by Paul Joseph Watson, The Truth About the London Bridge Attack. It's very powerful. It needs to go viral. It's up on Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. Then later coming up, Al Gore claims he lives a carbon-free lifestyle. The guy has, last time I heard, like 14 houses. One of them's like 30,000 square feet. He has huge private airplanes. He has one of the biggest carbon footprints in the world. He owns an oil company, Occidental Petroleum. That's coming up. And then we have the Megyn Kelly being destroyed by Vladimir Putin. So that's coming up at the start of the next hour, and then so much more. We have the author No Campus for White Men joining us, dealing with campuses now just saying no white people allowed, or you can't be here this weekend, or you can't be in the park, and the schools backing that. I mean, this is just total globalist creation of racism. This is terrible. It'll make white people racist, folks. That's the plan. CNN caught staging fake news. That's coming up. But here it is. The truth about the London Bridge attack.
7 people were killed and almost 50 injured when marauding terrorists went on a van and knife rampage in London last night. Because carrying on exactly as before after the Manchester bombing worked out great, didn't it? The terrorists shouted, "This is for Allah," while they slashed at women's throats.
When you're saying they were stabbing everyone, what did you actually see them do?
They were running up going, "This is for Allah." When they first see him, they went, "This is for Allah." And they run up, they stabbed this girl, I don't know how many times, 10 times, maybe 15 times. And she was going, help me, and I could not do nothing.
The BBC has footage of the terrorists saying this, but is still refusing to broadcast it. The attack was celebrated again by Muslim viewers of Al Jazeera. 41 attacks and 451 dead so far during Ramadan. One of the victims says he was approached by a man who said, "This is for Islam," before sticking a knife in him. But of course all this has nothing to do with Islam. The accomplices were arrested in Barking, where we paid for police to protect Islamist hate speech back in 2010. Once again, the community failed to alert authorities to terrorists in their midst, proving this is a far bigger problem than just radical Islam. But Sadiq Khan said terrorism is just part and parcel of living in a big city. Except if you live in Tokyo, Budapest, Prague, Warsaw, etc., 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 or any other big city without a huge Muslim population. Higher Muslim population, higher terror problem. Fact. Theresa May's response? To regulate the internet. Not a word about changing a border policy that allows ISIS jihadists who fought in Syria to slip back into the country. Not a word about interning the thousands of known jihadists who are allowed to roam our streets. Not a word about tackling the hateful ideology spread through mosques and prisons that inspires these attacks. Not a single word. Pathetic. May wants longer prison sentences for terrorists. Oh, gee, that's really going to deter a would-be suicide bomber, isn't it? She says this ideology is a perversion of Islam, proving once again that she hasn't read the Quran. Hey, at least if we elect Corbyn, we'll be honest about the fact that we've totally capitulated. And what are leftists most outraged about? The innocent victims crushed and stabbed, their blood running down the gutter? No. They're more outraged about Donald Trump's frigging tweets. We can't go on like this. If the government doesn't introduce actual measures to fix this, vigilante groups will take it into their own hands. You'll see a spate of hate crimes, and the left will be more upset over that than the actual terrorist attacks. We need a total ban on people coming into the country from terror-linked countries, except if they're politicians, journalists, or doctors. If you're coming from Libya, Syria, or any of these countries without good reason, no, you're not getting in. We need to seriously look at capping Muslim immigration into the UK. We need a massive surveillance program targeting mosques and the immediate arrest of anyone preaching jihadism. We need known Islamists in prison to be put in solitary confinement for the duration of their sentence so they can't radicalize others. We need the thousands of known jihadists in the UK locked up for life or permanently deported. Those are actual solutions. Lighting a candle, tweeting hashtags, and lecturing me about Islamophobia isn't a solution. That's surrender. That's capitulation. How about we honour the victims with more than just words and empty platitudes?
We'll be back. I'm Alex Jones. This is the InfoWar. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most amazing stories I've seen in years to take us behind the curtain of fake corporate news. CNN's famous in 1991 for saying they were hit with a Scud missile in Tel Aviv with nerve gas. They were in CNN Center in Atlanta with Jacko, the reporter, and the rest of it. Everybody knows about that. Then they've been caught doing other green screens, claiming their own location in places like Newtown, Connecticut, because they don't want other citizens being there, you know, jumping on camera saying things, basically. So they do it from their studios, and then they claim they're out there on the ground. Well, this is different. This is getting a fake demonstration together with a bunch of signs they hand out to have, quote, Muslims say, let's come together, we're sorry for the terror attack. But that's not really happening or going on, so they have to produce it. It's a PR event. And we've had CNN reporters on over the years who exposed that in Middle Eastern countries were paying $250,000, $500,000 to CNN to produce pieces that were promoting Islamic dictatorships and saying they were good. So we've had those reporters on. So this is what CNN does. And they're really about it internationally. They don't do it as much in the U.S. So Mike Cernovich yesterday hit me with the video, and I saw it, and it was incredible. And this gentleman's at work, so he's got to go very soon. So I'm going to go to Mark Antro first, just a citizen out there who saw this, the day after the attack. And he sees the police and folks having these signs handed to them, and they're doing PR pieces, and then they wave more people in, and there's the CNN reporter with lights and the big dolly. It's like a full, crew that is out there. And then CNN came out and said, yes, there was a nearby demonstration. We brought them in to do this. Well, it still shows you're staging by not showing the full demonstrations. Even if that's true, you're showing what you want us to see. This is totally unethical for anyone that's worked in journalism. I have a crew member that worked at CNN. They were specifically told, don't do this. He signed a non-disclosure. He can't come on, but he's in the control room. That's how this really works. If I went out and staged this, it'd be terrible. So this is a big deal. So Mark Antro, he's on Twitter at markantro.com. I want to give you the floor first. I appreciate your courage coming on. You're there in London. Give us your overall view of what's happening. in the world, what you're witnessing unfold, and the fact that your story now is in hundreds of news sites. CNN's responded saying, okay, we did stage it, but it was a real demonstration. Cernovich predicted this. They'd say, oh, we did stage it, but we went and found real people to come be part of it. Well, I mean, who knows if they'd stage this, what won't they stage, Mark?
I mean, there's a few good points in there. What's going on in London? I mean, I'm just lost for words. I mean, if we had some context, weekend before last, ISIS put out the threat over Ramadan that it's going to be a holy month of war. Following the Westminster attacks and the Manchester attacks, me and my girlfriend had planned to go out in London that weekend. But we changed our plans. People are saying people in London aren't scared and that we're carrying on as normal. We're not. I mean, I've spoke to, obviously, many people with the same issues and feelings as me. The media is portraying one thing and people are feeling very, very different. So, I mean, last week we changed our plans. This weekend, my girlfriend had plans to go out into central London on Saturday, when the night of the attack. So I went to collect my girlfriend on Saturday. Her mum had called her, and when I met her, she was in absolute pieces. Just ran up to me, cuddling me, asking me what's going on, in absolute panic. And like, she had been out like everyone else, enjoying her Saturday evening, having fun with friends, and then it turned into absolute chaos. I mean, we were in Oxford Circus. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with London at all, but Oxford Circus is the busiest tube station in London. We had to go back via there, and it was just disconcerting and horrible. We came up to Victoria to get the overground. There was just police everywhere, confusion. In the end, we just ended up spending a fortune to get a taxi back because we deemed it safer. So I suppose that's my initial take. To your point around CNN faking the narrative, I mean, it's just morally bankrupt as far as I'm concerned.
And let's expand on that, sir, because you're a witness to so much of this and shot the video that's now literally one of the, probably in the top 2 stories, if not top story right now, with CNN coming out and saying, okay, we did bring in these people, we did stage it, we did shoot it like it was a movie, but they were real Muslims and they were real, you know, protesters from a mile away, so it's okay. How do we believe any of this? This is why journalistically no one would ever do this, and I want to know, why are they so arrogant to go out and do this? Meanwhile, Tommy Robinson has a report from Rebel Media that's up on Infowars.com where UK government is housing radical jihadists and paying for them, and imams at the mosque where this guy came from are basically promoting all this, and they're shooting jihad videos there. And as you said, saying, month of Ramadan, we're going to go out and go crazy. And already, it's like 400 people have been killed in Europe and other areas in just the last week of Ramadan. They're killing people everywhere, and more, you don't even really see it on the news. It's like somebody got stabbed, somebody got run over, somebody got kidnapped, and it's just, so for every terror attack we hear about, the word is there may be as many as 20 we don't.
I mean, taxation's a whole different issue for another day. But I mean, in the UK, I'm not sure exactly what the tax is like in the States, but we pay about, the average person pays about 43% of their salary in tax, which, as far as I'm concerned, is modern slavery.
Just
as you say. Yeah, I mean, for that to go to people who are coming over here, who are making no net contribution after being given so much, I mean, I think that's despicable in and of itself. But if you go back to the CNN point...
Yes, in fact, let me give you the floor. Again, we have the man that shot the video, Mark Antro, living there in London. This is what, the day after. Describe it. You're walking along. What do you see? And as you're talking, we'll be rolling the footage.
Yeah, no, of course.
So describe what you saw.
Oh, sorry, I can just see myself. I can't see the video. So hopefully I'm in sync with you. But at the very beginning of the clip, you'll notice there's 2 white officers walking away. And just, oh, here we go, we've got it. So just into the shot now, we've got 2 Asian officers come in. We've got, I think her name's Becky, setting up the scene with CNN. And the white officers have gone. The white officers were there for at least an hour previously to these 2 officers becoming on the scene. And we literally just see it being set up. These guys, I can't comment whether they're sincere or not. these are already here before I arrived, so I can't say either way their role or how complicit in any setup they've been. But I mean, you clearly see Becky lining the shot up. You'll see BBC, who are next, start waving and setting up a scene with them, telling them to get into shot.
And that's a key point. It's not just CNN. We've got a feeding frenzy of international media there, all helping direct this.
Yeah, yes. I mean, BBC with ITN, ITV, but it was CNN's scoop. BBC were asking CNN if they could do it live at the same time BBC were live, and CNN categorically said no. Which I found quite outstanding. Again, here you go, this is BBC now saying they're in the shots, so they push them in. And this is what gets me. So the scene's about to go live. I'm not sure if you've got the audio there, but Becky starts the scene after setting it up, a whole false pretense, and she opens up and her opening line is, "This is a wonderful scene here." And I don't know if, again, you've got...
Sure, you do this. You walk through the scene without audio. Then we're going to go back to the point where Becky starts talking, the CNN reporter, and we'll play it for the radio.
And so you hear me laugh. And I go, that's because you've put the scene together. And the BBC director laughed with me. I mean, they know. They know it's fake. Becky, to be fair, she wasn't on an auto cue here. But it's all David working for an auto cue. That's all the CNN production kit. There's feeds coming in. So you're
saying even BBC was laughing at it, knowing how unethical it was?
I assume she's director, but a lady turned around to me when I went, after Becky said, "It's a wonderful scene here." I laughed and went, "That's because you've put it together," and she laughed with me. I mean, you can't say fairer than that. But at the end of the video, unfortunately, Twitter only lets you upload a 2-minute, 20-second video because the actual video is about 3.5 minutes. But at the end of the video, you see, I kind of pan round to get like a wider shot. And you come back and the two Asian officers have gone and the two white officers are coming back into the scene. I mean, it could not be any more staged. So while CNN are saying, yes, these are sincere Muslims, they're against ISIS, I'm not disputing that for a second. But what I'm saying is how false the pretense it is, how staged it was. And for Becky to stand there and go, this is a poignant scene. It's a poignant scene because your script is a poignant scene. It's not a poignant scene because that's the truth and reality. And that I think, to me, that's a real issue here.
Sure. Well, the BBC got caught for the Queen several times in Africa because she wanted it, creating a soundstage to meet African villagers a decade ago. That was a big scandal then because... Look, it's one thing if you say, here at the set we built, she met people, but you don't say, here we are in a village and it's a soundstage. I mean, that's fake news.
Oh, I mean, it's a given. There's no two ways about it. If it was half done sincere, the white officers were there, they weren't trying to create a false narrative, and the presenter is presenting...
And when you say white officers, you don't mean racially. You've got the PR police, and then you've got the actual police. I mean, describe that for folks.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. There was 2 or 3 white officers with a couple of armed officers there for at least now preceding the footage I recorded. Sure.
I mean, it's just like in New York City, but also in London, you have the police that are like the PR police that wear like, they have, I think, a white band on their hat and they wear a white or yellow vest.
Community sports officers.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. I'm just saying the media will spin it and say you were saying like they were white people. For folks that don't know, you've got PR police, and you've got armed police that are response police.
Oh, yeah, so I mean, so we've got 3 different types of police. It's a funny one. So obviously we've got the armed officers who are there in the background. I'm not sure what their department would be called, but I suppose they're the equivalent of a SWAT team almost in America. And then you've got the standard police who are unarmed or typically will carry a truncheon or a taser, maybe pepper spray. And then what we do to boost up the numbers is have community support officers. I may be wrong in saying this, but as far as I'm aware, they can't actually arrest anyone.
Sure, so you've got the community response PR folks that can write tickets for parking meters and stuff, but can't do anything. They're there running and directing clearly with CNN this. And we've got a clip of that footage. We're going to go to Mike Cernovich. And then let you get back to your work, sir. We really appreciate you. But here is the clip you were talking about where she's saying, oh, what a wonderful scene. Yeah, because you staged it. Here it is.
Just on that point, Alex, that was real, please.
These are Muslim monks. And this is in commemoration to the heroes of London. There are flowers on the street.
So she already said it. Sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, suppose the police in that shot would have been the Metropolitan Police. They weren't the fake police, so to speak, but they weren't armed officers, but they would be your usual police.
Sure, the point is the government's helping direct this with the media. This is obviously some PR stunt that was approved up higher, or you wouldn't have police there directing it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Absolutely. Well, I want to go to Mike Cernovich. We appreciate you doing this, Mark. Any other points you'd like to add about what you witnessed?
No, I mean, the video speaks for itself. You can clearly see I've had so many people calling me far right and things. I mean, I'm a libertarian. I believe in the non-aggression principle, and people are just trying to twist the narrative. I'd say watch the video and make your own decision.
Yeah, you're a person that shot a video. CNN admits they were staging it, but says it's not fake news. Address the information. It's like in the pub when they're stabbing people, somebody goes, "You effing Islamicist," and someone goes, "Don't call them that." I mean, it's like you're being killed and you're defending the people attacking you.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say? Typically, again, being libertarian, I'm a big fan of Ron Paul on foreign policy.
Absolutely.
But
let me throw this in right now before you got to go, and then we're bringing Cernovich in. Mike had the idea, he does this routinely just to honor people, because the globalists honor themselves, and they use taxpayer money to do it. We don't do that. We use listener money to do it. He wants to, and he doesn't have as big an operation as us, $1,000 prize to you for what you've done, and because you're going to be demonized, you're going to be attacked, but it's also we should recognize you. And I have this demonstration idea that Cernovich had, to go out and call CNN fake news, wear shirts that say it, Kathy Griffin shirts that say CNN terrorist, but it can be Fox News, MSNBC, we don't care. Go after them all. And I said, $2,500 or $1,000, those are the two prize levels, $200,000 in total prizes. And I said, you can be creative. Just show their lies. Just show what they're doing. Paint it on the side of your truck. Pull up in front of them when they're live, you know, saying CNN lies, CNN's fake. It doesn't matter. But because you did this, $2,500, give us your address, $2,500, on top of Cernovich's $1,000, so that's $3,500. Just not that you wanted money, but just the recognition that you're real media, and we want to appreciate you, and we want to donate to that, and we want to recognize that that has value in our culture and needs to be appreciated. Mike Cernovich.
Yeah, exactly. So we wanted to surprise you and award you, and also we want to send a message that, you know, the fake news media, what they'll do is they'll steal your footage, and then they'll sell advertising, and then they'll profit off of you. But Alex and I in the Info Warriors, we don't really believe in that. We think when you do a good thing, you know, we should recognize that. And we also want to inspire more people to take action, because if you think about it, this is the biggest story maybe of the year, fake news. I mean, if the media weren't fake, this would be in the New York Times, this would be everywhere, but of course they're trying to cover it up. And we want people out there with cameras knowing that, hey, if it's a holiday, if it's a Sunday, it's your day off. If you see the fake news out there trying to craft a narrative, get that phone out. That does matter. And also, we know people are going to try to defame you and lie about you. So this is a nice cushion. So have a vacation, have a nice dinner with your girlfriend on Alex and me. We're very, very grateful for what you did.
Exactly. And we also want to recognize people video some stupid celebrity, or they video, you know, oh, here's a cake I'm eating to show off for their friends. Be journalist. Go out, film everything, show everything, put it out, point it out, and become more powerful than CNN, the New York Times. As Matt Drudge always said, anybody with a keyboard or a camera is just as important as the New York Times. We are. So when we have somebody on like Scott or you know, Greer coming up later, or Owen and David Knight coming up, or Mike Cernovich, or Mark Antro, we're all just as important, black, white, old, young, and Muslims that don't want to be under radical Islam. You should speak out as well if you really don't support this. Closing comments, Mark.
I'm speechless. I mean, I think that, like I say, that I've made my point around the feeling in London. The video speaks for itself. So finally, huge thanks to you, Alex, having me on. And Mike, This last 24 hours have been an absolute roller coaster. I can't tell you. But when you first DM'd me, the retweeted, it's been mental. So it's been a good enjoyment.
I want to tell you, it's a great honor to have InfoWars.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir, to have InfoWars and Cernovich with his own platform. To know Cernovich picked it up, started going big. He called me right away. We retweeted. It exploded. Now it's in hundreds of newspapers everywhere. CNN's having to respond. It shows the power of the people and the value of InfoWars. And that's why InfoWars is so important. That's why they're after us. That's why Hillary said we lost her in the election last week. And it's why they're moving heaven and earth to destroy us right now. But thanks to you and your prayers, folks, we're standing strong. We'll talk to you soon. Mark Antro, give us your address or where you want 2,500 cent. I know Cernovich is going to send you 1,000. But believe me, I want to thank you again because you are the resistance. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Keep up the good work, Alex.
No, you keep it up. Again, these folks are always so humble and so thankful to us, Mike Cernovich. As you said, we have to celebrate the citizen journalists like Matt Drudge has done, how Drudge the last 10 years, linking to alternative media, helping build. I mean, without Drudge, Daily Caller, InfoWars, WorldNet Daily would have been a third of what they were. So let's thank Drudge right now, too. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, that's the whole point. Drudge and Andrew Breitbart, rest in peace, they were really about the revolution and supporting people, because one thing I see on social media that I don't like.
Oh, yeah, we don't, even Daily Caller that I've been nice to, it only writes snide pieces about me now. Same thing about Breitbart still and others. It is sad. Drudge is the real deal. He brings it. It isn't about, I've got the biggest website, so I'm not going to give you power. It's about winning. It's about defeating the New World Order. Go ahead, sorry.
Exactly. So, yeah, that's what Drudge does, is he drives the traffic to all these people, and he's built everybody up.
He has helped build and given the blood supply to the new media.
Exactly.
And so now, even if they destroy him, it doesn't matter. His greatest accomplishment is that he lives on through that no matter what. Sorry.
No, exactly right. And that's why, you retweet, I retweet stuff so much, is a lot of people just took Mark's video, and I go, man, I don't think that's right, dude. So I messaged Mark, and I go, I want to make sure I can use it and give you all the credit you deserve, and wanted it to honor him truly. And that's my message too to people on social media is, if you have a big platform, make sure you're retweeting the people or giving credit, honoring the people.
There is nothing more honorable, except for a firefighter or a cop getting killed, helping somebody, or a soldier, than being in the info war, standing up and knowing you're going to get bullied and called things just because you videotaped and showed the liars.
And that's why it's up to us to show leadership. And that's why the people who are listening in, they know that when they buy the InfoWar products, when they support it, that money's going right back out to the InfoWar. That money isn't going to Lamborghinis and Ferraris.
Oh, they're trying to destroy me in this country. I mean, I am so committed. I just absolutely want more capital so I can get everybody hired and be strong and move forward. Because I'm not complaining, but it's been wild. It's been rough. I asked for this, but it is just, they are so pissed at us. They are so angry. And please, listeners, we have great products at InfoWarsStore.com. I even skipped a break and have it plugged. We are going to end the Memorial Day special that I extended for a week. We have to, because we sold out of the Secret 12, Vitamin B12. We're about to sell out of X2. We're about to sell out of Super Male, but I'm still going to keep it discounted. 30% off, 40% off Survival Shield, Brain Force, 47% off Knockout, $9.95, 50% off. We've got Trump shirts, 75% off at cost, because I just want to win, win, win. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. But 3 or 4 products that were already on there are already off now because they're about to be sold out. If you sign up for auto ship, you never sell out. You get an additional 10% off. Emmerich's Essentials, the great organic, high-quality sunscreen and bug repellent and shampoo and stuff. It's 20% off retail with 25% off when you sign up for auto ship. On top of it, InfoWarsStore.com. But it's so critical in the war that we need to be resupplied. And a fraction of our wonderful listeners, they're all awesome, buy the products. If you'll just go to InfoWarsStore.com, if you'll just buy the products or call 888-253-3139, I can pay my crew what it is so they can live decent and be focused, and expand. So please, these are great products, InfoWarsStore.com. Mike Cernovich, what do you make of the left making excuses for this attack and where this is all going? I mean, what is the state of the world right now?
Well, I mean, we predicted it. Yesterday, when we talked about it, we said right away, we know what they're going to say, because we want.
Well, you predicted it. You said they're going to claim they brought somebody from a protest, which they then said.
Exactly. So we know their lies right away. Now, Shauna, my wife, goes, how does the media think they can get away with it? And I said, well, because before InfoWars, before Drudge, before Social Media, Gateway Pundit, before citizen journalism, the media got away with that every day. And now they realize Alex, millions of views, millions of people have seen that video now. More people watched that video than will watch CNN this entire week. More people will listen to you on InfoWars and all the social stuff we got going on than are going to even watch CNN. So this is a message to the fake news media. You think you're going to stage things. We got our people everywhere with cameras. You better stop lying.
And that's what they're scared of. That's why May, who I don't think is a bad person, she's better than the last prime minister, she's like, oh, let's censor the internet. Well, they admit in the whole UN plan, that means us. They always censor us, not the jihadis. So their answer is censor the web. No, Paul's right. I don't want draconian controls, solitary confinement, and all this. But you've got to do it because we're not going to lose our rights because they bring in some uncompatible group of crazy woman-hating cavemen.
Yeah, I want...
A bunch of woman-hating cavemen in nightgowns.
Did you see that CNN's Reza Aslan had tweeted out that he hopes Todd Dickerson gets raped? I kid you not.
No, I didn't see this. Tell us about it.
Okay, so yeah, there's a CNN employee. I think we have it on my timeline. Reza Aslan is the point. And he had tweeted in 2004, I'll pull up the tweet. He had tweeted out, I want Todd Aiken to be raped, and I am serious. Because you and me, of course, if we say anything satirical, they treat it as actually as real, even though it's clear satire. Yeah, Reza Aslan said, just to be clear, I was indeed wishing someone would rape Congressman Todd Aiken. I'd hate to be misunderstood. So this is not satire. This is actually CNN wishing rape on people.
I recognize that guy's name. I don't follow CNN. He attacks me all the time.
Yeah, that's a CNN guy right there. So we need to get this story pushed out hard.
What? Wow. Well, I guess he supports Islam. They're into raping men there as well. But I guess if you're against raping men, you're anti-gay. And that's how the left will spin it. We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. Hour number 2, a little bit more with Cernovich. Then I've got Putin annihilated Megyn Kelly, just annihilated her. I hope I do as well tomorrow. All right, I've got to get to this Megyn Kelly destruction when she interviewed Putin a few weeks ago. It aired last night on NBC. That's coming up in the next segment. Mike Cernovich is here with us, who had the great idea to kind of take our Bill Clinton's a rapist contest and come out with it and say, no, mainstream media is fake. The media is your enemy. CNN is ISIS. Kathy Griffin, loves terrorism, whatever. But you go to Infowars.com/contest. We've got the rules, $200,000 in prizes. We've got, folks out there getting it on the news that we're seeing more and more evidence that CNN works with terrorists and that CNN is ISIS. But it can be whatever you do. If it's good, if it's successful, I want to pay out until the money's gone. So it's not like I'm trying to say, oh, that one doesn't work or this one doesn't work. I want to pay out. I want to have guests on. I want to see it happen. I want you to hit that threshold. I will honestly look at it. And when it's a $200,000, that's our budget. It's over. So Mike Cernovich, you've got the floor, my friend. Really appreciate you and all you're doing. Your energy's amazing. Other points you'd like to impart to the viewers?
Yeah, it showed. I actually sent Nico that tweet from Reza because CNN employs a guy. Reza Aslan is the guy who said Trump is a piece of, shit, and he had to apologize. And he goes, oh, well, I don't use inflammatory language. And there Reza Aslan had said, just to be clear, I was indeed wishing someone would rape Congressman Todd Aiken. I'd hate to be misunderstood. So that is not satire. Because, of course, you and I, if I, bang my chest, they'll say, oh, Cernovich, he's having a meltdown. He thinks he's a gorilla, even when it's clearly being just satirical. But Reza Aslan had actually said, I want somebody to be raped. This is CNN. This is who they put on the news. This is why when I tell people, and Alex tells people, they accuse us of making things up. When I tell people, CNN wants you to be raped, they want your children to be raped, they want you to be murdered, people go, well, that's crazy. Look at that. That is the face of CNN.
They have a will to dominate. I mean, this is a group of ravenous scum.
Yeah, who wishes death and destruction on the American family, on the American patriots. They want you enslaved because this is their religion. What a lot of people don't realize, because they say that they're atheists and don't believe in God, their religion is to enslave people And that is why they want to destroy Christianity, destroy the family. That is why they even want to destroy moderate Islam, right? Because you and I, we respect the Jews, the Muslims, everybody who wants to be a patriot and make America better. What the news wants, they want the radical Islamic terrorism because they know that can destroy the family. And if you destroy the family, then they'll be able to enslave more people, and that's ultimately their end goal.
How do you think Trump's doing, Mike Cernovich, right now?
He got us out of the Paris Accord, which is great. A lot of what is happening, for example, 50,000 refugees, refugees are going to come in, and people blame Trump, but that was actually Brian Hook and Margaret Petterline who did that. They're actually going behind Rex Tillerson's back in the State Department and allowing more terrorism and terrorists to come into the country. So a lot of things Trump are getting blamed for are actually his active sabotage by people like Brian Hook, people in the State Department, people in deep state. So on the big issues, the only thing that I wish Trump would do are two things. I wish he would tweet more, and I wish he would do a little bit of cardio, because we really need him around for a long time.
That's right. And a third, he needs to do at least once a week, probably twice a week. He needs to do the fireside chat and take control of the media again. He's been the big international TV star. He needs to get up there and really sit there at a desk and talk about his plans directly to the people. That is the number one thing he's got to do right now.
Yeah, I was actually interviewed, and they go, what should Trump's communication strategy be? And I said he should run it like a media outfit like InfoWars, or even like I do in social media. Have B-roll footage of where he goes, narrate the B-roll footage, talk about...
Nowadays, it's so simple. It's a piece of cake. It doesn't be overproduced. I know he wants to make it perfect. That's why he hadn't done it. No, just get in there and do it. Thank you, Mike.
Many Americans hear the name Vladimir Putin, and they think he runs a country full of corruption, a country in which journalists who are too critical could wind up murdered, a country in which dissidents could wind up in jail or worse. To people who believe that, what is your message?
I want to say that Russia is developing along a democratic path. That is certain. And no one should have any doubt about that. But why do you feel you have the right to ask us these kinds of questions and do it all of the time, to moralize and to give us lessons on how to live? We're ready to listen to comments when it's done constructively, with the goal of establishing a relationship, creating a common environment. But we will absolutely not accept when these sorts of things are used as an instrument of political conflict. I want everyone to know that. That's our message.
Putin is reforming Russia. Putin is promoting Christianity. Putin is promoting people having children. Putin is promoting not having 3-year-olds sexualized with reading hour with a tranny at the New York Library with the toddlers. Putin is fighting radical Islam. Hollywood and the Democratic Party and the globalist and the John McCains of the world are working with it. That's the facts. That's what happened. Let's go through some of these clips. Where to start? Let's start from the beginning. Hackers could be from the U.S. shifting blame on Russia. Well, that's actually come out in the Vault 7 CIA leak that they admit it's real, that they are staging hack attacks and blaming it on Russia, and that they even tried to plant stuff on computers in Trump Tower. That's why they're going with the Russian narrative. They've been trying to frame Trump. Putin implies JFK was killed. Well, there's no doubt about that. U.S. actively interferes in political campaigns in other countries all over the world. So how is it Russia isn't supposed to? Because Russia a little bit did on RT, but it was like most of the reporting was pretty liberal, and I don't like it. And RT America is weak. It's big global. RT Global is pretty big, only because CNN's discredited itself. But, I mean, I've seen the numbers. Do you think I have time to talk to ambassadors all over the world? You know, as if he's coordinating all this. You people are so creative over there. Your lives must be boring. I mean, there's so many of these clips we're going to go to right now as we analyze NBC and Megyn Kelly's interview with Vladimir Putin ahead of her next target. Moi. Here it is.
You had said for months that Russia had nothing to do with the interference of the American election. And then this week you floated the idea of patriotic hackers doing it. Why the change and why now?
I hadn't said anything. It's just that French journalist asked me about those hackers. I told him the same thing I can tell you. Hackers can be anywhere. They can be in Russia, in Asia, even in America, Latin America. They can even be hackers, by the way, in the United States, who very skillfully and professionally shifted the blame, as we say, onto Russia. Could you accept that? In the midst of a political battle, by some calculations, it was convenient for them to release this information. So they released it, calling out Russia. Can you imagine something like that? I can.
By the way, they use the fact that Putin's honest. Obviously, you've got 200 million people or whatever it is in Russia or more. And then you've got 300-something million in Europe and 300 million here, and there's all over the world. And everybody knows you can go anywhere. You can go to a library and hack somebody. Or you go, have some, teenager in his mom's basement, or it could be the communist Chinese. It could be anybody. But it came out in the Vault 7 documents that our government was doing hacks in America and then blaming Russia. Vault 7 Marble Framework reveals that the CIA evaded forensics to attribute malware to other countries. There it is. Infowars.com has an even more detailed report showing the actual documents. But Putin's honest. He's like, we're not directing cyber attacks on you, but I'm sure there are Russians that are angry at you that were. Let's just be honest. Of course there are. Is there Russian mafia running around stealing credit card numbers? You believe they are. We know they are. Are Nigerians doing it? Are there Mexican hackers stealing credit cards? Are there American hackers doing it? Of course, that's what goes on. And they're of every political persuasion. Geographically saying an attack came from Russia, it appears, so we're militarily going to attack Russia. That's what NATO said 3 years ago. When Hillary wasn't even Secretary of State, she gave a speech saying, we need to look if Russia involves in a cyber attack using military force on them. Then the State Department adopted that. Just type it in. State Department, Pentagon, says they may respond with military force against Russian hacks. How do you prove that? Are there Russians in uniforms attacking? Are there tanks? Are there submarines? Are there ships? Are there landing parties? Do planes fly over us with Russian flags on the side bombing us? No. We're told this is what's happening. Is Russia sided with Islam? No. Is Russia sided with Christianity? Yes. Does that make me a Russian agent? No. Never been to Russia. I'm reporting on the bona fide facts of what's going on. Type it in for yourself. Click web, you'll find it. Hillary says we should respond militarily to Russia if they have a cyber attack. That's the quote. Hillary says respond militarily to Russia if they launch a cyber attack. If Russia launches a cyber attack, launch a military attack on them. That's suicide. That's insane. That's no proof. This is the woman backing the Arab Spring. Let's go to the JFK comment. Putin implies JFK was killed by the CIA. Here it is.
Then the former KGB agent floated a Cold War conspiracy theory about U.S. dirty tricks.
There is a theory that Kennedy's assassination was arranged by the United States intelligence services. So if this theory is correct, and that can't be ruled out, then what could be easier in this day and age than using all the technical means at the disposal of the intelligence services and using those means to organize some attacks and then pointing the finger at Russia?
For the record, U.S. intelligence has concluded Mr. Putin himself ordered the disruption of the election.
Now, since we found it, let's go ahead and put the article up where Hillary said, if there's a cyber attack from Russia, hit them militarily. There it is. Washington Times. Hillary Clinton, U.S. will treat cyber attacks just like any other attack. She goes on to say, we'll use military. Except you can't prove it. And that's now official government policy under Obama. And Trump's trying to change it, but they're saying he must be a Russian stooge because he doesn't want to mass troops on their border and fund George Soros overthrowing countries so we can teach Ukrainian kids their sexuality when they're 3 years old. Why would government be involved in an NAMBLA program? Now, this is a key one because the United States, hijacked by globalists, I always hear the U.S. does this, the U.S. does that. No, the people that have hijacked us are famous for overthrowing governments, manipulating elections. The United States has half the military force on the planet. The United States, who I love, is the biggest manipulator of elections the planet's seen. But it's one thing if you're trying to stop communists. We don't even do that anymore in Cuba and in Venezuela. Instead, we try to overthrow Hungary or Romania or Poland because they're anti-EU, they're anti-radical Islam, they're anti-socialism. So we've become like the new Soviet Union. The euro is the new Soviet Union. And they're trying to make us like that, and I don't like that. If Putin acted like this, I'd say, assassinate him. I don't have any skin in the game for Vladimir Putin, but he's not doing that. He's doing exactly what I do in almost every case. It's quite frankly uncanny. But again, Hillary said, it's like the Russians get it from somebody in the U.S. And she goes, InfoWars loses the election. And quite frankly, it's true. Because I'm an American. I'm promoting the Renaissance. I'm promoting freedom. I'm promoting everything that they hope we forgot. I didn't invent any of this. I'm just bringing it back. I'm an American. I'm not a Russian. I'm an American that wants freedom. I'm an American that wants open free societies. And I want Russia to be prosperous and free, and China and Mexico and everybody else, because that's how I am. I'm not a scumbag. It's not rocket science. And the scum that hates God and hates Christ and hates families, the Hollywood scum, hates Russia. I've talked to high-level producers. They go, Hollywood hates Russia because they're Christian. Hollywood is satanic. Let's go ahead and go to this clip. Here it is. U.S. actively interferes in political campaigns.
I will tell you something that you probably already know. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but the United States, everywhere, all over the world, actively interferes with the electoral campaigns of other countries. Put your finger anywhere on a map of the world, and everywhere you will hear complaints that American officials are interfering in internal electoral processes.
But with respect, that sounds like a justification.
It doesn't sound like a justification. It sounds like a statement of fact. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But I repeat, we don't even have to do that. Presidents come and go, and even the parties in power change. But the main political direction does not change. That's why, in the grand scheme of things, we don't care who's the head of the United States. We know more or less what is going to happen. And so in this regard, even if we wanted to, it wouldn't make sense for us to interfere.
That's right, and Russia now understands soft power like America was until the 60s. Be open, be free, be strong. Everyone will want to be with you. Don't go around trying to make everybody do what you want like Russia was doing before that in the Soviet Union. Here's more of Megan and Putin.
Into this house we're born.
A special counsel has been appointed to investigate contacts between your government and the Trump campaign. You've said that your ambassador, Kislyak, was just doing his job, right? So what exactly was discussed in those meetings?
There were no meetings. You understand? There were no meetings. When I saw this, my jaw dropped.
No meetings between Ambassador Kislyak and anybody from the Trump campaign?
I have no idea. I'm being completely honest with you. I don't know. The routine job of an ambassador. Do you think that from all over the world or from the United States, the ambassador reports to me every day who he meets with or what they discuss there? That's complete nonsense. Do you even understand what you're asking
or
not?
You're his boss.
Listen, his boss is a minister of foreign affairs. Do you think that I have time to talk to our ambassadors every day, all over the world? Complete nonsense.
Now let's expand on that. She knows the public's dumbed down, at least her audience. And they keep running the story every week like it's new. Sessions, when he was a senator, met with the Russian ambassador. So did Nancy Pelosi, like 10 times more than he did. It was like 80-something times. He'd met with him 3 times the year before the campaign. With her, it was like 80-something times. I don't even know how she could be meeting with him so much. And then photos and videos were released. I mean, what do you think the Russian ambassadors? There are Chinese and Russian and British and German and French and Brazilian and Mexican ambassadors and diplomats coming out of your ears on Capitol Hill. They're everywhere. There are black limos everywhere. That's what countries do. but they make it dirty. That's why Trump hasn't even met with Putin yet, even though he was, because, oh my gosh, he had the Russian ambassador 3 weeks ago. Remember? Oh, it's treason. He gave him the secrets in the Oval Office. That's how they play these games. I know Megyn Kelly probably asked me if I'm a Russian. I mean, it's ridiculous, lady. You people are so creative over there. Let's go to this clip where he talks about your lives must be boring. Here it is.
Have you gone back to speak with the ambassador about what was in those discussions he had with Jared Kushner, with anybody else from the Trump campaign?
No.
Never?
No, I haven't.
Aren't you interested?
No, because had there been anything significant, he would have reported it to the minister. The minister would have reported it to me. There weren't even any reports. There's nothing to even talk about. There wasn't even any kind of specific discussion about sanctions or anything else. For me, this is just amazing. You created a sensation out of nothing. And out of the sensation, you turn it into a weapon of war against the current president. Well, this is, you people are so creative over there. Good job. Your lives must be boring.
Total lies. That's what they say. He gave away where the submarines are. 3 weeks before the Pentagon announces 2 subs being deployed, they land in Seoul as a show of force. Oh my gosh, the same day he talked to the Filipino president and said, I sent 2 subs. It was on the news. Trump doesn't give anything classified out. He won't say anything about military operations unless it's authorized, unless the Pentagon tells him to do it. He has totally put them in charge after he gives them orders, which is what a president hasn't done in 60 years. And that's why the bureaucracy's pissed. They want to run the military through the president. Let's go to this other clip where he talks about General Flynn. Here it is.
Did you know General Michael Flynn? He came over here for a dinner, a photo of which has been widely circulated.
Maybe you're a Russian agent.
Media. What was the nature of your relationship with him?
You and I personally have a much closer relationship than I had with Mr. Flynn. You and I met yesterday evening. You and I have been working together all day today, and now we're meeting again. When I came to the event for our company, Russia Today, and sat down at the table, next to me there was a gentleman sitting on one side. I made my speech. Then we talked about some other stuff, and I got up and left. And then afterwards, I was told, there was an American gentleman. He was involved in some things. He used to be in the intelligence services. That's it. I didn't even really talk to him. That's the extent of my acquaintance with Mr. Flynn.
And again, that's at a major press event, and that's what generals do. You get out of the military, you go and consult all over. He did it for Turkey. He did it for Canada. He did it for the UK. Did it for the U.S., He was consulting for, that's what generals do. He was retired for 4 years. He got paid $34,000 to go speak at an RT event. And of course it's all political influence. Of course that's what diplomacy is. The difference is Russia isn't communist. Russia isn't promoting destroying America. Russia is out from the same globalists that we want to get out from under. Does it mean they've got some cakewalk? Does it mean they don't have major problems? Absolutely. But Russia is not our enemy. The globalists want to make it our enemy. And Trump is a pragmatist. He understands they've got major resources. We ought to do business with the Russians. We'll be back with a big guest. Stay with us. Ladies and gentlemen, we have got some incredible stories on Infowars.com. CNN admits they were staging fake news the day after the latest terror attacks that are just becoming a regular occurrence that the mayor says we should just accept. Because Islam's a religion of peace. Literally said that again. We've caught them staging fake Muslim demonstrations against the terror attack because they can't get the regular Muslims to come out and decry it. We've got plenty of footage of them out there promoting it. This is just craziness. So that video is up on Infowars.com. That is a huge, huge story. DrudgeReport.com is linked to our story. Press coverage of Bilderberg, highest ever. And we just have links here, hundreds of mainstream news publications reporting on private corporate world government that until just a decade ago was totally secret out in the open. So globalism, world tax, carbon taxes, it's all out in the open and it's all dead on arrival. How would they ever have a private corporate world government that would take over and manage our lives and run our lives and tell us where we live and what we do? And I should talk to executives and media folks, they'd say, Alex, they'd never get away with that. That's outrageous. And I said, they're doing it by stealth and total media cover-up. They said, Alex, that would never fly. It's not real. Oh, well, then my job, I learned about 20 years ago, was just expose that it was real, and it'd be game over. And so we're now in that process. Instead, they're just trying to normalize world government now and go, of course we have private world government that's above the law and taxes you and tells you you're going to live in a tiny apartment and triple charges you and takes your car away and you can't have mothers and fathers anymore. And of course, I remember just at the inaugurations 6 months ago, January 20th, I was there, and I was a George Soros group funding it, $80-something million for that one march, $200-something million for the next marches around the country. And they were handing out plastic hijabs, American flag hijabs. So I search engined while I was out on the street shooting videos the day after the inauguration. And sure enough, he was funding it. And sure enough, it was Muslims running it, handing out hijabs. People didn't believe me. 3 months later, USA Today said, liberals now wearing hijabs in sign of anti-Trumpism and for feminism. Google it. USA Today, hijab, the new sign of feminism. That's like saying putting Jews in gas chambers is the new sign of, Judaism or something. Or worshiping Hitler is pro-Israel. This is the upside-down crazy town. Hijab becomes symbol of resistance, feminism in an age of Trump. See, I was stunned on the airplane ride back, and then I learned it was happening everywhere. We've got a problem. The feminists are, coming out doing all this, and people are getting upset, and the Muslims are pushing their agenda of enslaving women. What do? The right wing has a point. Well, just say Islam is the new feminism. And now that's what they're doing. And then I see articles and stories and videos where, there are no white people allowed, in Missouri or Kansas or Oregon or Washington or Texas at a campus. And then I saw this a week and a half ago, people didn't believe it when we first reported it. Evergreen State faculty turn on professor say he's endangered students when they told him he's a big liberal, big SJW, uses all the cult language they use. It's crazy. But they said no whites allowed, on this certain day in the campus. He said, well, that's discriminatory. Plus they have the dorms, and it's like not letting black folks go to a lunch counter. They said, oh my God, you've got to go. Just like Yale, when they said ban costume parties. And the liberal professor goes, listen, you're allowed. It's free speech. They went, literally screaming, and he was fired from being the assistant dean. So now the college is just shut down because this is the social division the globalists want to test on the campuses, and it's so weaponized, it's spreading. We're going to talk. By the way, I read this book a while back. I want to carry this, but I'm glad we finally got it. But I want to carry this at InfoWarsStore.com. No Campus for White Men, Scott Greer. This came out a few months ago, 6 months ago or so, but he is so on target. He's going to give us the breakdown of this in just a moment. You can follow him on Twitter at Scott Greer, Scott M. Greer. But before we do that, briefly, to fund our operation, we had a Memorial Day special that was one of the most successful we've ever had because 2 items were the lowest sale level, lowest price ever. It was 65% off on colloidal silver. For $19.95, we private label the same stuff that's at Whole Foods for $24.95. At $19.95, this great disinfectant, antibiotic, alternative system, 4.9 stars, 1,600 plus reviews by Power Reviews. At $19.95, it's a great deal. When we offer it at $9.95 and sign up for auto ship, it's then 75% off because it's like, $7 or something. You do that, it's the best deal ever. And you can stock up on it, you name it. Supernova Vitality, just known herbs that help make you more vital, more libido, more stamina. 30% off, even though it's been sold out for months. Survival Shield, X2, the great good halogen, 40% off. Rainforest, the nootropic, 20% more now in each bottle, 47% off. Again, do auto ship, additional 10. Knockout, the incredible sleep aid, 50% off. All InfoWars Trump shirts at cost, even though after he signed the climate, or killed the climate deal and pulled out of globalism and stood up the last few weeks, he's rock star popular again with our audience. I saw him get totally popular, go down some, back up. Even though these shirts are selling like hotcakes, they're all limited edition. They're at cost because I'm going to spread the word, stand up to bullies, and have you be able to meet like-minded people in your area. You'll get your dinner bought for you and high fives in most areas, but if it is Berkeley or downtown Austin, you will probably get slapped in the back of the head. It's happened to me, so watch out. We got Paul Watson's shirt, Conservatism is the New Counterculture, and so much more that triggers libtards. And then finally, we introduced this about a month ago, and unfortunately, it's been so popular, a lot of the items are going to sell out in the next few weeks. We've got 6 new items, non-nano, organic SPF 30% zinc oxide sunscreen. Not the nano, it's the natural good kind. We have the DEET-free herbal bug spray. It's a cream that works so well. We have the concentrated peppermint mouthwash 10-to-1. We have the pure unscented body wash. We have the pure tea tree shampoo. We have the long-lasting natural deodorant and more. This is one of the top brands in the country, one of the top 3 you see sold at Whole Foods. We got them to private label, 20% off retail, and then auto ship, 25% off additional on the Emmerich's Essentials. That's my middle name. That's what the marketing crew picked up on. Kind of egomaniac, but that's what they did. They said, well, like Tom's the Main or this or that. People like a name. So it's Emmerich's Essentials. I think it's a good name. But you know, there you go. Infowarsstore.com or 888-253-3139. And when you fund us, you know it's changing the world. We got a $200,000 contest going that already, I think we got some winners in D.C., you name it. CNN is terrorist, CNN's fake news, CNN hates America. It's big. We just had this guy, $2,500. That's the highest level you can win out of the $200,000 that I'm going to be paying out. As fast or as slow as it happens, looks like it's about to happen quick. And he just, just exposed CNN doing a fake newscast. So 200,000 cash prizes, InfoWars launches, Operation Expose the MSM Terrorist. Do it however you want. If I deem, I'm the judge, that you did it, $1,000. If you really do great, $2,500, and I want to pay out. Now, if you just kind of get on the internet for 5 seconds with a sign on our own feed with it, I want to give you $1,000. I can't do it. There's a lot of that. Hey, A for effort. But some of you got on the news, so we're going to go through that train wreck. So I don't do a lot of these contests. It's actually, getting with you and, getting to you. But it's fun. We want to have you on as guest. That's how we do it. Just like we did with the fellow that was our first winner, $2,500 in the last hour. Oh, and we're funding the operation, I should add, with limited edition. It's like 8 different designs. CNN terrorist white, black, and gray T-shirts with Kathy Griffin's ugly face. This will bring everybody together. So, again, InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com, or 888-253-3139. And please support our local affiliates as well and their local sponsors and spread the word. This is an information war, and it's critical. Now, I just mentioned earlier, I'm not going to recap, that campuses all over are saying no white people allowed. And this is the white professors running this, but then some say this is wrong, this is racist, and they're driven out. So first it's Halloween parties, and then it's the Constitution, pocket constitutions. The day of absence usually consists of students of color leaving the campus for the day to bring awareness to their presence and issues. Now it's you've got to leave, which is pure forced segregation and discrimination. So why is the left pushing this? How pervasive is it? Why is it so wide scale? We know it's not just mental illness. It's concerted, directed social control. So joining us, the author of No Campus for White Men, also writes for the Daily Caller, Scott Greer joins us. Scott, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me on, Alex.
You bet. I've been ranting for 5-10 minutes when we came back from break. Where do you want to start? I mean, how pervasive this is, what's behind it? Your book chronicles it.
That's exactly right. We'll just start with the Evergreen thing. When I first heard about this story that they had harassed and intimidated and even forced a professor off campus for merely opposing a day to force all white people off campus, I was wondering, did these activists hear of my book title and then take it up as a challenge to make a reality? Because this is like them proving that my book's thesis is exactly right, that they have this secret, deep, interracial animosity building up towards white people just for a lot of things that they hear from their professors and administrators, that white people have done all these bad things in the world, and that everything that goes wrong with your life, it has something to do with this evil white supremacy that controls America. So when Evergreen first proposes day of absence, usually, I think as you previously mentioned, it's usually directed that minority students leave campus to show how bad racism is. That's fine. They volunteered to do that, and they're not forcing anyone to follow along with it. Well, this year, their new idea was to say, why do we have to leave campus? Let's force all those evil whites to leave campus instead so we can protest racism. This professor merely said, that's forcing oppression. That's dangerous. You're not helping your cause at all. And then they, of course, forced him off due to threats of violence, which the local campus police said, hey, we're not going to do anything about these protesters, but we are going to tell you, you got to stay off campus because things aren't safe. And when you look at the videos of this, it's a good point. They held all the faculty and administrators hostage in one building, essentially hostage because they weren't letting them leave, and that the school president, said that, like, hey, I need to use the bathroom, and they're like, no, sorry, you've got to hold it. You got to meet our demands first before we can let you leave. So this is an extreme example of what we've seen at various other campuses of building up demands that are only made for certain students. And it's very racial exclusionary.
And let's be clear, the Soviets, if somebody did bad something in the neighborhood, they would then punish the whole neighborhood. The Nazis, if somebody shot a Nazi, say in Poland, they'd kill the whole street. The essence of authoritarianism is to say white people did some oppressing things in the past, so you, because you look like those people, you're now guilty, is total mental illness. Plus, in the great aggregate, it was Western Europe that ended slavery globally. So this is true ignorance as well.
Yeah, exactly. They don't really care about history. This isn't about history or facts, and they don't ever use reason or data or evidence to support their arguments. They just say, this is white supremacy, or this is making me feel unsafe. And I outlined this all in No Campus for White Men, and they deployed these tactics again at Evergreen State. The reason why they were intimidating and harassing professors and forced Mr. Weinstein to leave campus is because they said his views threaten our very existence, that violence is going to happen to us, even though they have no evidence to back this up, and there's no examples of this happening at any other campus. They said merely allowing this person to speak and have these views is dangerous to us. And even when you make the point that authoritarian regimes make an example of somebody, they would shoot the neighbor, or if your neighbor or somebody does something bad, they're going to punish the whole neighborhood in order to make the neighborhood get the point. This even happens with Evergreen State. Nearly a quarter of the faculty have signed a petition demanding that Professor Weinstein be punished for going on Tucker Carlson Tonight and sharing his story. According to them, that launched a white supremacist backlash.
Exactly. So they try to kick him off. They threatened him. And then because he didn't give in to the bullying, he now needs to be punished and destroyed. And let's expand on this. We had, Wazoo, or was it Missouri State?
Missouri, yeah.
Oh, that's right, Mizzou. I'm teleprompter free. I'm going from memory. Where they kicked all the white students off of the commons area, but they had white professors that were enforcing it. And then meanwhile, I saw numbers that it killed enrollment almost 30% the next year. This is going to destroy the colleges.
Yeah, Mizzou is getting hurt very bad right now. They've had to close at least 3 or 4 dorms because of how bad enrollment is. And it's not even just enrollment. Alumni donations are also plummeting. So a lot of the money that they could count on to offset the bad enrollment numbers isn't coming in either. And that's all due to them catering to these campus leftists. And at the Mizzou case, they just made up that there's systemic racism going on. And they said that they're like, well, we found this one graffiti in a restroom that we assumed is racist. Thus, there's racism everywhere, and there's white supremacy everywhere. And even at some point, when there was mounting criticism of the actions of the protesters, they made up that Klansmen were roaming the campus and attacking students when there was no evidence for that at all. So they will resort to lies and deceit to support their cause when they're starting to lose. And we're starting to even see that in the Evergreen State, where they're saying that there's some white supremacist backlash now, and all their lives are threatened when there's no evidence for that at all. All these students are safe and sound. The only people who are threatened are the professors who will dare oppose them.
Your book breaks it down, and now it's getting worse. Where do you expect this to go?
Oh, it's getting much worse. I think the only thing unless lawmakers start cutting funding for these schools, things are getting much worse, because really these things have gotten heightened ever since Donald Trump was elected president. Before, we hadn't really seen violence. We had seen, as you pointed out, showed with the Mizzou clip, we saw that they would form a protective barrier and say, you can't come here. They would disrupt speeches. They would use, shouts and all that. They wouldn't use physical violence. But ever since Donald Trump was elected, we keep seeing violence being used.
Sure, and we see the media promoting kill Trump. We see MSNBC analysts saying blow up his properties, ISIS, please help us get rid of him. I mean, this is true insanity. No Campus for White Men. Scott Greer is our guest. We're going to break in a moment, but here's a clip of a week and a half ago with the No White Day And then I guess some whites still dared show up. So here's some of that footage.
These racist teachers have got to go. Hey,
screaming at some lady that's like grading papers coming out of her office. This is pure racism. Total. I mean, don't you think the KKK thinks they're good too? I mean, it's the same mindless ignorance. Look at these people. I mean, what the hell? I guarantee you most of those folks are living on scholarships, you name it.
What about our protection right now?
Their protection from all the imaginary white supremacists.
Suggest that you take under heavily consideration those that oppose the trading industry.
That's how whiteness works. Whiteness is the most...
Fade this down. We're going to go to break and come back with our guests. Folks, what's happening is, I remember being about 11 years old, starting to be going to puberty, had an attitude problem. And we were walking around in a grocery store and then went to a hardware store, and everybody was so nice to my dad. They were all being so friendly to him. And I said, Dad, why is everybody so nice to you? And he said, because I'm cheerful and I'm happy, and I smile at them. And I remember having that lesson. Oh, if I don't act like a jerk, people like me. So imagine just running around. You think there's KKK under the table. You're starting fights with everybody. It's going to make you unemployable wards of the state. And that's the social engineering plan. I want to see you, no matter what color you are, successful. We are back live. We're talking to the author, Scott Greer, who wrote No Campus for White Men. And you see this type of stuff all over the country, and it's so crazy, you can't believe it. Because, I mean, I was brought up, Martin Luther King was a good guy, had a great idea. That's how I was raised. This is 180 degrees difference from Martin Luther King. And just the space of 8 years under Obama, this all happened. And then it's all directed by the big foundations. It's directed by the media. So I guess they want to put us back in groups, is what this is basically coming down to. Scott Greer, why do you think this is happening? I mean, we know it's an engineered program. Why would Soros fund Black Lives Matter? Why would they try to sow all this division? What's going on here?
Well, I think for the reason why it's happening among the students is that this is a power play. This is a way to play these identity politics, to say that there's all this racism, white supremacy, that all the people who control this are these evil white racists. It makes for an effective tool to gain more power and gain more advantages on a college campus. A lot of these students get into college in large part due to them citing on their application saying that I'm a preferred minority that you want due to affirmative action policies. Once they get into college, in part due to that, it says, why don't I carry this along for the next 4 years and gain more power and advantages? And we're seeing this with the demands that they're making. You know, at University of Wisconsin just a few months ago, they were demanding free tuition for all minority students because of racism that's still apparent at the very left-wing University of Wisconsin-Madison. At several schools, they're demanding cheaper dorms that are better than any other dorms that are exclusive only to African Americans or Hispanics. And they demand and they're able to get these demands by just saying, we're victims, we're oppressed, we're hearing all these microaggressions.
And so bottom line, the colleges are being held hostage by their own ideology they were trying to create to go out and hold the country hostage. Their own vile globalist propaganda of racial manipulation is backfiring.
Yeah, it's backfiring because most normal Americans are seeing these crazy kids yelling over fantasy racism that's not there. I mean, these are very left-wing campuses. Evergreen
How many places in the country, there's thousands of cases of Jewish groups, black groups, Hispanic groups, but also white groups to themselves saying somebody burned a cross or carved something on their dorm, or they saw a swastika in the clouds. I mean, this is crazy.
Yeah, I have a whole chapter in No Campus for White Men dedicated to the hoaxes that they use to demand action at these colleges. There's several examples. I mean, last year when Hillary Clinton was still running for president, even though we might think that she's still running for president by her current actions, she highlighted a fake hate crime that had been committed at a New York university where 3 women claimed that they were assaulted by racist passengers on a bus. It actually turned out that they had assaulted passengers on the bus. That was the cause of the fight, but that's caused a huge protest movement to start at their campus. I previously mentioned the University of Missouri, where students were protesting there over sketchy allegations of racism. Yale University in November 2015.
Let me set her up and then do 5 more minutes with you next hour if you can. It's not just universities, too. What is the point of people attacking Jewish cemeteries and then saying it's anti-Semitic to get Trump to talk about it in his first congressional speech, and then they attack Trump because he privately said it's fake, and it turned out it was fake? Why are people staging this?
Because it's a good political tool. If you claim that there's all these hate crimes happening because of Trump or the crazy right-wingers or something, you're able to get more, you're able to dismiss Trump. You're able to undermine him. You're able to undermine his supporters. And you're saying, oh, all this Trump is causing all these hate crimes. So people will, and they'll get, that individual person will claim them because they'll get instant sympathy. They'll be turned into a hero. There's that case of...
So people are being taught, you don't go get a job, you don't work hard, you don't excel that way, you just become a big victim. And so they're learning how to just be big drama queen victims as the society prepares to collapse. We're going to come back with a bunch of other guests in the next hour, but I want to come back with our guest briefly and talk about how do we fix this from his research. Scott Greer. Stay with us, the third hour straight ahead. Scott Greer with us for 5 more minutes. Then we've got our reporters back from Bilderberg joining us in studio. Owen, Shroyer, David Knight. I'll get Kit to pop in as well. No campus for white men. The transformation of higher education into hateful indoctrination. This is all by design, but it's backfiring. It's killing tuition. It's killing attendance. It's killing alumni contributions all over the country. But still, the system presses on because it's about social control and also taking minorities who are the new majority and putting them into a racial control system again, because the Republicans, for all their problems, did end segregation, did break the back of what was happening with the Democrats in the South. So the Democrats then flipped to the minorities, but have now developed a new racial strategy there. So I don't know how you counter this. I don't know what you do about it. Folks are just making themselves unemployable. They're creating horrible records on themselves, and they're also creating such chips on their shoulders that they're just mental patients. Social justice warriors, white, black, I don't care. I mean, millennials in general, a lot of them are great, but a large portion are just wrecked. They are wrecked. Absolutely can't take criticism, can't take hard work. I don't care what color they are. It is devastating, the babies that we've raised here, and it's very, very sad. So I don't even know how we turn this around. Final comments, Scott Greer.
Well, the first thing that could be turned around, at least on a college level, is just for these administrators to tell these kids no. Like, no, we're not caving into your demands. No, we're not firing this professor.
But they're not. They're trying to crucify instead everybody.
Yeah. Instead, these professors and administrators caved to every demand. If they stopped caving into every man, if they just refused to give in to these bullies, that would start a lot of these things. It would just say, look, you can play victim all you want, but we're not going to reward your behavior.
But I mean, whether it's social justice warriors or whatever, they're black, white, but they act like toddlers. Just the flouncing, the throwing fits, the rolling around the ground. These are literal toddlers.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's to demonstrate that they're a real victim, that they can't control their emotions because life is just so hard for them, being oppressed every day.
What about how many colleges from your research, I know it's handing out Play-Doh and pencils and stuff for 4-year-olds when you throw a fit, and they encourage you to come, and then they have nap times now, and you play like you're a baby?
Yeah, those are what happened in safe spaces. If you see something that upsets you so much, like a conservative sharing a different point of view, you go to these safe spaces where you can play with Play-Doh and pretend you're a 5-year-old for a day when you're really a 20-year-old adult who's supposed to be acting like an adult. But this is the type of behavior colleges reward. If you play a victim, you're going to get more privileges and benefits on a college campus than you were if you're not a victim, if you're one of those evil or privileged people.
This is beyond idiocracy, and it's supposed to come 200 years from now, where, oh, you saw a pocket constitution? There's video. Come here, we have the Play-Doh. And they go, and you sit down like you're in kindergarten and play with Play-Doh. I mean, what?
Yeah, and they'll arrest the people who are handing out constitutions. So it's
oh yeah, I forgot that part. It's always worse than I'm sorry. Arrest them and then give you Play-Doh. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll always use brute force against the dissidents, the people who oppose the snowflakes and the people who are crying and acting like victims. If you're privileged, they'll use as much force as possible. The actual legitimate oppression upon you.
But we should be accelerating legitimate privilege for everybody and wealth centers and getting everybody into a culture of wealth and success. I'm telling you, we're going to end up like Venezuela very, very quickly. How long do you think we can survive under this? Is there any way to turn the tide?
Well, there's always a chance that that you can turn the tide. I mean, right now, this is only really limited to colleges. The real problem is if it gets out into the general society. If corporate America starts having safe spaces, if they start putting out warnings about microaggressions.
Oh, no. You know about sensitivity training. It is here, my friend.
Yeah, they already have that. But even if they expand that, I mean, pretty much most major corporations already have that sensitivity training. But if they have to deal with these snowflakes coming from colleges and that they're like, well, I can't handle this work because it's triggering me. If they just let them, sit in a corner and play with Play-Doh all day when they're supposed to be working, that's when society really starts to crumble.
Exactly. All right. No cameras for white men. Scott Greer. I can't believe I've been reading that headline. It's all out in the open now. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
I tell you, truth is stranger than fiction. Well, big props to our crew, Kit Daniels, and, of course, Owen Shroyer and David Knight, who went to Virginia, 20 miles outside the White House, where the Bilderberg agenda admitted that they are dealing with Trump, and a lot of people that were there admit they want to overthrow Trump. So global government is definitely in trouble. Drudge had our article linked earlier. Press coverage of Bilderberg, highest ever. And if you search Bilderberg and click news, hundreds and hundreds of articles. This is simply amazing. Why is this important? Because the very people that have been for 30 years cooking up carbon taxes with Ken Lay and Al Gore now have a president that delivered, and not just delivered, saying he's pulling out, what he said in that 35-minute speech. We're going to play some of those clips again because it's so epic. We're going to get to that. I was asking David, I said, what do you want to cover? And he goes, Trump's speech, because you've got, I'm glad, because it was last week, but this has not been given the credit it deserves. So say what you want. A good Supreme Court justice, 40+% down the illegals coming in, the economy going from stalling to coming back, the globalists trying to make that fail, crushing the real Al-Qaeda ISIS that Obama and Hillary launched. I mean, there's a reason they hate Trump. If he wasn't absolutely on target like he is, I would support him. But I'll tell you this. I apologize to the audience that I've not been more supportive of Trump. And I've been supportive. But it's just so easy to get into this internet thing of, oh, yeah, he didn't do perfect on this or that. He's under total siege. They're trying to overthrow him. I'm surprised he's getting anything done. And if we have this attitude, we're going to lose, okay? But we're in a very exciting time right now because some people also say we're going to cover this topic. Oh, Alex, you used to expose false flags, and now you're not. These are clearly false flags in England. Yeah, the false flags bringing in 5 million military-aged men into Europe and England. Yeah, the false flags letting them travel back and forth, and MI5 and MI6 ordered not to stop them. Yes, the higher-ups are protecting them. They are letting them happen. Why? Because they're going to take your freedom and take internet freedom, as I keep saying, from everybody. So the answer is deport the Islamists, the folks that have ISIS flags on their Facebook. You go to their house, they got an ISIS flag. They're not a British citizen. Deport their ass. This is simple. Paul Watson had kind of a chilling end of his 4-minute report on this that I agree with in part, in spirit, but here's the problem. It's got to be for folks that have proven they've done something wrong. But again, that's why our governments won't do anything. They're bringing in uncompatible Day of the Dead meets Fred Flintstone, who have this obsession with killing women. They were showing the guys that got killed in the terror attack at London Bridge just looked like Charlie Manson, wishes he looked like those lunatics. These people are just cavemen, okay? And, I've been in the mall, man, with the guys just got off a plane a month ago, women in full burqas, staring at my daughters like they can't believe little girls are walking around with it open, and the men are like, oh, and then I watch the videos, and they go, they are weak, their women are ours, ha-ha, we take it from them, we destroy Russia, we destroy Europe and America. And then Russia dare fights back, so Russia is the enemy, as our government's allied with it. It's the Bilderberg. It's the globalist confab. It's the example of the big roundtable group. It's the enemy. And it's on its heels now, but it's trying to strike back with a summer of rage, economic implosion, and more. So let's go to David and then Owen Shroyer for the balance of this segment, each with about a 3-4 minute statement on what you witnessed, what you saw. Then we'll get into the meat and potatoes as we move forward.
Alex, the reason we're talking about playing these clips of Trump is because I said the thing that was different this year was as it was beginning, Donald Trump ended their climate treaty agreement out of Paris. And one of the things that was on their public agenda, and of course they never even admitted that they existed, let alone that they were meeting. They wouldn't give us a list of who was there until you started covering it for a number of years. And then after I think it was after what, 2013, where it was so big, at that point, then they started releasing the names of people they said were going to be there. But of course, we see that there are other people who did go besides those. We've got pictures of that. But what they said was, will globalization be slowed? Well, the day that the convention began, their Bilderberg meeting began, he put a massive pothole in front of them. But they're not going to say it's going to be stopped. They're not going to say it's going to be reversed. Their thing is, will globalization be slowed? Yeah, it has been slowed. It has been slowed to the Paris Agreement. And as you're talking about the different people in his cabinet, and I'm very concerned, as I've said from the very beginning, people like Rex Tillerson, others, the influence of Jared and Ivanka, and the three of them were saying, stay in the Paris Agreement. You had other people who were pushing to get out of it, like Scott Pruitt of the EPA, and a brave lawyer who made the case to them that if you don't end this, even though it was not ratified by the Senate, you would have lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit to try to force you to do things that are in that Paris climate.
And then the leftists all howling and saying, get him, kill him, oh, he wants to kill the earth. All it is a carbon tax that everybody else is exempt from.
The lawyer, I think, that had the most effective statement was the one who put this to Trump and said, you're about putting America first. The Paris Climate Agreement puts America last, dead last, behind the people that they say are causing the problem, like China. They're allowed to continue to grow.
2030.
Yeah, exactly. They're continuing to allow to grow to 2030. Then they cap it. Then they start to put some reductions on it. No, they're taking this out of America.
It's an obvious, ridiculous, insane screw job. And the best line was, I represent Pittsburgh, not Paris.
That's right. Absolutely. And so I think it was very important to see that. And as they were going back and forth saying, how did we lose this fight? We had this debate that was going on. And then you had somebody who was one of the losers came out and said, well, Trump was never debating this. He never had anything good to say about the Paris Agreement. And that's
because it's always a giant.
To know.
Exactly. He's real.
Yeah.
And he's proving it. So now, I know you didn't like him at first. You had reservations, but you liked him because you saw the big pillars he was against. And you know a man by his enemies. But now, is Trump not amazing?
Yeah, we've had a lot of really good things. This is seriously
a
very big thing.
I know we don't just give people praise, but he's under attack. I think he really needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he stood up to these people, even the people that he appointed, and he stood up to these people at the G7. And Merkel, I thought he was going to do this because Merkel was apoplectic after this. She said it was 6 against 1, and this guy is going to burn everything down. Yeah, he destroyed their agreement because their agreement was to destroy America. And he said,
and they admit that, and they admit that. And then all he's doing is trying to help the average American or global worker. It's going to shut all them down, too.
It wasn't even about the climate. We don't even have to talk about the science.
It's a global tax that controls who can work and live. Owen Shroyer.
Well, and I asked the people on the streets that didn't like Trump why they liked the Paris Climate Agreement or why they think it was such a good thing. And they didn't have any answers. They couldn't tell you any details about it. They couldn't tell you.
No, just I'm saving the earth. I'm good. You're a Nazi murderer. Carbon dioxide's pure poison.
And if they would actually read the document and look into it for themselves, if you were actually concerned about climate change or man-made global warming or whatever nonsense it is that they're trying to push with this Paris Climate Agreement, you would read it and you would say, well, wait a second, this doesn't actually address that. This doesn't actually help that. All this does is handicap and cripple America.
It ups toxic waste output by moving it to 167 dirty countries.
So it doesn't even do what they're claiming they want it to do, and then you can go beyond that. And
if they had smokestacks like the old ones, spewing mercury and particulate, I'd be suing them myself. Our coal plants have scrubber analysis and planes that fly over. 0 comes out, but carbon dioxide and water, and that's what makes me believe in God. You have the ancient history of this planet. You have, obviously, our modern creation by God. But you're looking at, I'm not going to debate its age. It's been proven by the carbon dating, all the rest of it. Regardless, the planet has much larger carbon dioxide, much lower carbon dioxide than it did previously, hundreds of times higher. We're losing our atmosphere like Mars. It's like we came along right on time to take the oil out of the earth, which the science is showing isn't animal-based, and are now terraforming the planet to keep it alive. We need more carbon dioxide. And I'm saying that as someone who's researched the chemistry.
Yeah. Well, it's going to make the planets grow. But look,
you're an engineer. You want to speak to that briefly?
Yeah. Well, we know that it's a closed system. We know that you have an increase in carbon dioxide. It's going to cause the plants to take that in, put out more oxygen, grow more rapidly. And
it's where our atmosphere comes from, dumbasses.
It's called a closed system. It's evidence of design. But Alex, when you're talking about this, you're pointing out that this is actually going to make things worse. You're exactly right, because what's going to happen? You put these kind of controls on American industry, on American energy production, people are going to move their plants more to China. There's going to be more outsourcing.
Like they already did.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's going to continue to increase for another 13, 15 years before they even cap it.
Oh, and I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Well, actually, I just wanted to get back to Bilderberg and just get off the climate agreement for a second. You know, I didn't see anybody from mainstream media out there the entire weekend. Now, this is something that we would say, okay, we're not shocked by that. The mainstream media has been ignoring Bilderberg for years. They would tell you that it didn't exist just 10 years ago. Okay, so wow, the mainstream media ignores Bilderberg. Not shocked there. But here's why it's a big story, because this is a Pandora's box now, Bilderberg, that people, I think, can start to see and wake up to. Some people say, oh, wow, a secret meeting of people, world elites. Oh, okay, that's not the worst thing in the world. And then they look into it and they see that they hire security to outnumber anybody on the streets 10 to 1. They see that they hide themselves behind fences, yet say that you can't have a border on your country wall. So it's just all of this nonsense.
Hypocritical BS.
But think about it like this, Alex. Okay, so you've got a meeting of world elites. They put out their agenda.
It's bigger than G20, and imagine G20 isn't covered.
And Trump is at the top of the agenda. Okay, so you're telling me that we've got American
world leaders meeting in secret with Trump top of the agenda. They admit no U.S. media.
How do you not report on that? Whether you like Donald Trump or not, how do you not report on this meeting of world
Because you have to admit that InfoWars and everybody was right.
So, well, and that's, I guess, the case, and they just don't want to draw attention to it. So, you know, Bilderberg wants to push it out like, oh, we're going public. Here's our manifesto. Here's our talking point.
But really, that's the cover of acting like there's nothing there, and then the silence is even greater, except for international media.
And you can look at their talking points, and you can pretty much break them down. Actually, our new cameraman who went out on his first trip with us to Bilderberg did a great job. He actually shot a report.
Who went with you?
Harrison.
Oh, Harrison's awesome.
Yeah, he went on his first road trip this weekend. And he even shot a report breaking down the propaganda bit by bit, all 13 talking points. They want to act like they've got everything cool, under control. They are under crisis management right now, Alex. They are seriously under crisis management. Trump has not quite been the wrecking ball, but what he did to the Paris Climate Agreement, the TPP, NATO, that's the President Trump we want.
Oh, that was a big strike. That was a big one.
Yeah.
David Knight's going to be doing the fourth hour today in about 35 minutes. He's going to leave us at the end of this segment. And one of our great researchers and writers, Kit Daniels, the story was up on DrudgeReport.com today about Bilderberg's going to be popping in with Owen Shroyer. I also intend to play a few clips here of Trump's speech. We will be taking more calls throughout the week. I took a lot of calls yesterday. But I saw people get really energized by Trump the first 70 days. Then he made some bad decisions. The first big one was going for Obamacare light. Then when people saw a better version come through, they got happier. But when they saw him kill the climate accord, when they saw him stand up to globalists and start getting more hardcore again, when they saw him continue the travel ban, it's a gauge. I mean, Trump T-shirts were selling 500 a day until about day 70. Then we were selling like 50 a day. Now they're back up to 500 a day. People say, oh, he must be making a lot of money. No, we're selling them at cost. So the point is that people are really behind Trump, and he needs to know that. Go with us. We're backing you, but he's got to know that. I think we should all target Trump and let him know. Fireside chat, fireside chat, fireside chat, fireside chat. Do it, do it. Don't let producers come in. Don't make it too complex. Do it clean. Do it now. Take action, Donald Trump.
I agree, and I think what he ought to do, Alex, is use it as a bully pulpit. He has the ability to talk directly to people that Ronald Reagan always said he was going to go over the heads of Congress and the press, but he never had the tools to do that. Donald Trump can...
Ronald Trump?
Yeah, Ronald Trump. He can get the crowds, and he has Twitter, and what he should do is use that, not to fight with the press, but to fight for the agenda that he got elected for, and to get people to fight with him against, and pick one, narrowly focus on one issue at a time, and then go for it. And of course, when we see this, that's a big win when he does that type of thing. And so already he's gotten out of TPP, he's gotten out of the Paris Climate Agreement, which was not a treaty. It was self-ratified by Obama. That was very important. Now we've got other people like Wilbur Ross, who was at Bilderberg, saying, well, we're not out of TTIP, the Transatlantic Partnership. I think that Trump is going to shut that down as well. But
what we've seen, though, is he keeps their people in. We now learn to keep the enemies closer.
That's right.
By the way, I haven't told you this. You may have been told. Megyn Kelly wants to interview you tomorrow.
Okay.
That's a sharp-looking suit you're wearing right now. You might want
thank you.
go change out of it and use that for tomorrow.
I don't know.
No, I mean, she wants to get a few of the other crew, and she wants to interview me like 8:30 at night. You know, obviously she thinks I'll be exhausted, which I will be, but I don't care. But what do you think about that? It's like, she goes, I've got Putin, you, and then Trump. So I'm kind of impressed.
We were just outside reporting on the ambush predators at Bilderberg, because that's the way they operate. They stealthily get in, they move very slowly, and then all of a sudden they strike. And that's what we see with these jihadis in London. You know, I did a report, Alex. Everybody was talking about CNN as ISIS because Kathy Griffin is holding up this icon of the jihadis. That was the symbolism that she was doing. But it's really Bilderberg that is ISIS, because Bilderberg are the ones...
They're funding the EU program with Peter Sutherland, the open borders. They're behind it all. We don't just say, oh, they're ISIS. CNN supported the Arab Spring. She supported Al-Qaeda and ISIS. They support them in Syria, the White Helmets. CNN is ISIS. Hillary's the founder of ISIS.
Theresa May says the internet is the breeding ground of terrorism. No, open borders allow them to get onto your ground and to breed.
Oh, yeah. Don't take all our internet freedom away. They already we'll criticize ISIS and they'll suspend our Twitter or Facebook saying, oh, we don't promote hate.
Yeah.
I have a right to expose these people. I'm not even showing their head chopping.
The real breeding grounds of terrorism, as I pointed out, were Syria and Libya before that. And before that, it was Bilderberg that created all of these conflicts, that created the regime change, that created the chaos and civil war in those countries.
They're working with Islam.
They can bring the people into our countries, create chaos and civil war, use this to enact controls, and that's what she's now moving towards. So in that sense, yes, it is a false flag from Bilderberg, but they're not necessarily directly controlling these guys. As these guys are out there, the government didn't want them named. Why? Because it'd probably be embarrassed, and then they are going to be embarrassed, and they should be embarrassed. They had BBC doing a documentary on the jihadi next door, and at the same time, as you've talked about, the same guy is in a park, they unfurl an ISIS flag, and they're all sitting there bowing down and worshiping it. Were they arrested? Were they deported? No, they were, quote, had an altercation with the police. The police didn't do anything about that.
That's right. If you or I put a manifesto out that we want to murder innocent people, we can be arrested. It's premeditated. When you're bowing to an ISIS flag and in documentary saying jihad, you just admitted you don't want to be an open free society and you're planning on killing people. Bye-bye. And if you resist, we come to deport you. The cops are going to machine gun your ass. And it's not that we're looking for violence here. You're calling for it. You want to wear a uniform. You want to run a military flag up and then dance around and kill little girls at a concert. We're going to kill you.
And he was filmed at an event, Alex, and this is what the guy that he was standing next to said. The Sharia is coming to the UK. This black flag you see here one day is going to be on 10 Downing Street. They have declared their intentions. They have flown their
And they've already got a Muslim mayor. They've already got a Muslim mayor bringing in Sharia law and saying that don't worry about terror.
This is the way it's going to be. This is the way it's going to be.
Yeah, well, you know, listen, if you love Islam so much, go back to an Islamic dirt bag country. And again, I was against all these wars. We were taking out secular countries. But now that the war's here on us, I'm not losing my liberties, and I'm not putting up with your crap. All right, thank you, David Knight. Owen Shroyer, stay with us. Tons of news. Donald Trump and Kit Daniels straight ahead.
We're on the march.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Alex Jones, your host. We're here weekdays, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Central. We're trying to add more broadcasts, not just the nightly news. We appreciate all your support. You know, I grew up, and as a child, you know, you tend to listen to your parents, but as you get a little bit older, 7, 8, 9 years old, you get sick of hearing about it. And, you know, you hear your grandfather going, yeah, we raised Colonel Travis's son, and this side of the family launched the whole attack, and we met with President Jackson, this great-great-great-grandfather of yours, with the special forces of the day to go into Texas and run the operations, and then we shipped in 10,000 Bibles at Galveston, and then we shipped in the weapons here. And you're hearing about preparations to start war with Mexico 10 years before. Make no mistake, it was all a setup. The United States took Texas from Mexico, but just didn't want to look bad doing it, so set it up. And the argument was, you know, it was run by a bunch of dictators and the rest of it. But I would hear all that, and I would just think, you know, this is ridiculous. This is just arrogance. I'm sick of Texas. I'm sick of America. I'm sick of... Because you just think this is a bunch of propaganda. Then you grow up, you travel the world, you thank God for who your family is. And I'm not bragging, because I could go into a lot of other stuff that he's even more off the chart that I'm not even going to get into on air. Because someday I think I'm going to get into some of it. With the founding of the stock exchange in England, and the Tudors and the Stuarts and the founding of the country and the Mayflower and all the rest of it. But the point is that Then I think about the Muslims, whose population has doubled the last 25, 30 years to 1.4, 1.5 billion. It's set to double again by 2030. 3 billion plus. And they're getting the same stories about your granddaddy blew these people up and this person did that. And these are men. These aren't wimps. They go target wimpy targets because under Islam they're taught that makes everybody run away and you take the village over. You blow people's women and kids up, they tend to, leave. And they got these latest guys, and it's just like, I mean, I see these guys in Austin now bugging their eyes out at me like they want to kill me. And women in burqas, man, I'm not just talking about hijabs, and I am offended. Just like I would hear the KKK was coming to town, and I'd go protest them 15 times. I didn't do that to virtue signal. I did that because I heard about all the horrible stuff they did back when my dad was a kid. How my grandfather stood up against them. Because there might be some racist black people or Hispanic people, but he wasn't going to get on that level of the KKK. He was going to go out and stand up against it. And he was going to, cut the taxes of black people and white people in state government. But that's a whole other story. That's called pride, ladies and gentlemen. I don't need you to be low for me to feel big. And Islam, the orthodoxy of it, this is their reformation, is exploding. And our elites have decided to team up with it. We have this clip, let's play it from Fox, of identifying some of these guys. And it's always the same thing, Pakistan, Morocco, Syria, Libya. And who is our government in Europe backed? I'll give England this credit. England's done a lot of bad stuff. 6 years ago and 5 years ago, England finally said, we're not backing you in Syria. We don't like what you did in Libya. And we're going to sit out. And France quarterbacked all this to their shame. And I'm not some anti-Francophile here. They quarterback putting the most radical, horrible, Wahhabist Muslims in. And they want you to know when you're at the mall and your daughters don't have, they point your daughters in front of you and you're sitting there as a man, just literally got stuff, you know what I mean, scenarios running through your head. You're just sitting back going, man, what the hell's wrong with our government? And you get fundamentally pissed off, and then you stop going to the mall. Then you stop going out because it's just like, what in the world is this? I am offended. Like if I saw some black guy pulling a plow with a ring through his nose, man, I would like kick the ass of the person driving the black guy. Not because I'm some goody two-shoe. I fundamentally get pissed. And I see some, the Muslims in their track suits and their women are all scared wearing Jawa outfits, man. I get pissed. I'll be honest with you. We spoil our women in America. They get so spoiled, they run around and want to be under hijabs now. I don't even know what to do anymore at this point. It's getting crazy. People are going crazy. And it's not just some passing fad with liberals that love Islam. They hate this country so much. They're just such trash. They're social envy people, and most of them are white. And I don't want to just say that to be a virtue signaler. It's true. Our problem is liberal white people. They're the leaders of turning the blacks into racist. They're the leaders of trying to lead the Hispanics into crap. The Asians are too busy working and getting jobs, being smart, being the richest people. The top 6 slots of the richest groups in this country are Asians. They're like, you're going to go kill each other and act like assholes? Excuse me for that. We're going to go make money. I am so fed up with this at this point, and I am so angry. And you're making a great point earlier before we went to break, or during the break, about people not getting 3-, 4-dimensional chess. They think it's checkers, explaining the processes. You got a great allegory for it, Owen Shroyer.
Well, and let's keep in mind, too, these are the same white liberals that will complain when a cat cafe moves into a neighborhood that it's gentrifying it. So it's bad if white culture tries to infiltrate anywhere, but
if there's an empty asphalt drive thing and people put in a cat sanctuary and bring value to the area, God forbid.
But it's also okay if, you want to force Sharia law and Islamic culture here in America. That's okay that they want to force that on you. But the point that you were making at the end of the
point you made, yeah.
Well, I think that it needs to be talked about more because, like you said, people don't understand how this whole thing has evolved, Alex. You covered for years ad nauseum what the United States government was doing to fund proxy wars, to destabilize the Middle East, to force regime change. Hillary Clinton brags about it in Libya. Yes, you reported on that. You called that out. Now
they act like that's our weakness. Oh, you were against the wars. Yeah, blowing up countries where rock and roll music was on and 60% of the graduates were women, like Libya and Iraq. Yeah, we're against that.
So now we're sitting here in the aftermath of all of that. They're trying to clash civilizations in the West. They've already done it in Europe. Yes, this is the aftermath of the news that you and we already reported on for years, but then they get mad at us for reporting on it now, complaining about it, and it's like, well, hold on. I'm allowed to protect my self-interest, okay? I'm allowed to protect.
Yeah, we didn't want to blow the radical Muslim dam open, stir them up and bring them here. Now the globalists did it. Now we are not going to go along with it.
So we're not going to
see, we lost that last war. We're not losing this one.
Exactly, Alex. And I think that I have...
and we were in the right then, and we're in the right now.
I think that I have an idea here for what President Trump can do with this travel ban, because they keep trying to shut it down. Now they're admitting, okay, yes, the president does have
the State Department's just ignoring him.
Well, and so what they're saying is,
hey, when states would segregate like Arkansas, Eisenhower marched the Army in. Trump ought to march the Army in the State Department and throw all those people out on their asses. They're involved in espionage for the globalists. Their computers should be searched. They should be shown being run by Soros. They should be arrested. They want war. They want death. They want it.
Well, and I think...
And by the way, we just took the White House, okay? Don't think we're playing games, jackasses. We want to fix things peacefully.
So here's what I think President Trump can do, because they're trying to say, well, these courts, these judges are shutting down the travel ban because it's segregation, okay? He's discriminatory. That's what they're trying to say, why they have this precedent to stop the elected president, these unelected judges. So here's what I think President Trump can do. President Trump, please get this message. Trump's advisors, please get this message. This is how we can beat them, okay? You have to play, just twist their minds with this stuff. This is what President Trump needs to do with the travel ban. Instead of calling it a travel ban or whatever he wants to call it, this is what he needs to do, Alex, and this will completely defeat the entire agenda against it. Here's what he comes out and he says, all right, we're eliminating the travel ban. We're done with that. We're going to come out with a new thing. This new bill is called, we are banning countries that we've bombed for the last 8 years. This is countries we've bombed for the last 8 years ban. Boom. Oh, the countries we've bombed for the last 8 years ban. Oh, wait, that makes sense. That's not a religious thing. That's
Let me go further. We're going to ban countries that execute gays and enslave women, and then that's those countries.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to boycott people that kill gays.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you put that in the bill. You put that in the bill, and then if you have, what is the liberal response going to be? Think about it, Alex. They're trapped. They're complete. It's a Trump card. They can't do anything. Because what are they going to deny? They can't deny that Obama bombed these countries for the last 8 years.
It's all genius. We should go with my point, too. Kit?
Yeah, it's like, we should just call it the blowback ban. That's what it is. You know, it's going back to what Owen just said about
Trump is cleaning up their mess.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's almost like we're pulling a judo move onto the masters of judo moves, but we're not even doing that. All we're doing is realizing the truth of it. Yeah, we are banning countries that are throwing gays off of rooftops, but we won't hear that in Western media.
Yeah, exactly. Your country says stone gays, you're banned.
It's always about...
And I don't do that to patronize the gays. I don't want to kill you.
Yeah,
don't try to teach 5-year-olds how to give blowjobs.
Yeah, going back to, and this ties into what Owen just said about the Cat Cafe. It's always about redirecting the left's anger at complete nonsense. The same thing with Bilderberg. Everything Bilderberg represents was what Bernie Sanders was speaking out against during the campaign.
And Antifa.
Yeah. But you don't see anybody there from Antifa. I don't remember seeing anyone who voted for
literal fascists. Yeah. Literal global fascists meeting zero Antifa.
Yeah, you got a bunch of and Politico.
That's another great point. Why does the left never protest Bilderberg?
Yeah.
They're total hearsay mafia, Alex. You know.
Over the weekend,
they have no individual thought.
Over the weekend, Politico put out this article on how everybody that Trump invited to the White House was old, rich white men. So I tweeted back. I was like, so why aren't you reporting on Bilderberg? Because that's the same thing.
Yeah, but then they
here's
complain.
The thing.
They also
complain.
They
always crop those photos. He's bringing in record. It doesn't matter. He's delivering lower taxes, good things for everybody, and actually trying to make it about sovereignty and wealth, not about what racial group you're in.
Yeah.
And that's what he says. He says, I think that the answer to all of these questions, if they want to bring up racism, they want to bring up this, he says, jobs. We're going to get you a job. We're going to get you a career. We're going to get you a job that provides for your family. And
the elites already decided we need a future without humans. I want to shift gears now into some other clips, because I said I have some of these clips, and there's a bunch of them. We have clip number 3 from last week of the 4 clips of Trump, his historic speech. I want to play that. Trump, killing this America-destroying carbon tax. Here it is.
I'm willing to immediately work with Democratic leaders to either negotiate our way back into Paris under the terms that are fair to the United States and its workers, or to negotiate a new deal that protects our country and its taxpayers.
He's so classy.
That's exactly what they don't like about him.
So if the obstructionists want to get together with me, let's make them non-obstructionists. We will all sit down and we will get back into the deal and we'll make it good, and we won't be closing up our factories and we won't be losing our jobs.
Secret groups won't be making the deal?
With the Democrats.
That obstructionist term he's using is brilliant, too.
That represent either the Paris...
Because that's what Obama tried to say.
Something that we can do that's much better than the Paris Accord. And I think the people of our country will be thrilled, and I think then the people of the world will be thrilled. But until we do that, we're out of the agreement.
Boom.
I will work to ensure that America remains the world's leader on environmental issues, but under a framework that is fair and where the burdens and responsibilities are equally shared among the many nations all around the world. No responsible leader can put the workers and the people of their country at this debilitating and tremendous...
I'm going to tell you the Trump secret.
The fact that
he's super alpha OCD about things working. He hates seeing the country fall apart. For 10 years, they can't make the new digital catapults work for aircraft on aircraft carriers. And the military doesn't want them. The Navy doesn't want them. And he started screaming, get rid of the GD electronic, we're going back to steam, because he'd already seen the reports. And they're telling him, no, sir, it doesn't work. He goes, go back to steam. They act like he's an idiot who's against technology. No, he's not. He just knows if it isn't working, go back to what works.
Yeah. Well, there's this new crime in liberal minds that it's a crime to be wealthy, or it's a crime to have a lot of money.
But his economy is based
Especially
on service. Let's finish the clip. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Here's the president.
Reason why foreign lobbyists wish to keep our magnificent country.
He's tired. No lobbyists.
Tied up and bound down.
Huge thing he kept.
It's to give their country an economic edge over the United States. That's not going to happen while I'm
president. That's what globalism is.
That's just truth, man. That is just the truth.
Is to do everything within my power to give America a level playing field.
Ooh.
And to create...
Oh, my God, how dare you, this Russian.
Regulatory...
See if this...
Look at this dirty Russian.
This Russian agent.
He's for America. That's Russian. Yeah.
And productive.
Did you hear George Washington was a Russian?
Russia has been ruling the planet for 500 years with the reptilians.
Standard of living and the highest standard of environmental... Our tax ridiculous, though. Bill is moving along in Congress, and I believe...
Let's see, if this was really about man-made climate change, they'd be happy to renegotiate this with him, but they're not going to do that.
It's a carbon tax.
Yeah, no, it's...
Let's shut the president down. Go ahead and make your point.
It's all about economic terms of surrender. That's exactly how they're proposing to do. This is like the Soviets.
Al Gore.
Giving the...
It's naked. It's ridiculous. We have to make the cuts. Europe does. Nobody else.
Which, by the way...
No.
This is the biggest story, I think, in this whole climate change thing, is that still, to this day, no matter how many times I beat my head making this point, they will not address chemtrails. They want to say man-made climate change, man-made global warming.
There's massive geoengineering.
Meanwhile, they're literally spraying chemicals all over the air. They completely ignore that.
By the way, it's cut way back since Trump got in. I've noticed.
And so, but get this, CNN and Kit shot this report. I shot this report yesterday. CNN puts out an article admitting that, oh, here's a new
I saw that. We're going to come back from break with CNN admits weather engineering or chemtrails. Let me just say this briefly.
What?
Folks, I want to hire a bunch of reporters. I want to launch a bunch of new shows. Hillary says that InfoWars lost the election. Well, we were part of it. You really lost the election. You did that. So bang for your buck. We have great non-GMO heirloom seeds, great water filtration, great T-shirts, great books, great videos, and great nutraceuticals, great supplements. This special will end today because we've already sold out of 2 or 3 of the specials we had, like the Secret 12 methylcobalamin, vitamin B12, and others. We're getting ready to sell out of a bunch of the products. InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com. It's last chance. Support Patriot Media. Beginning of summer sale at InfoWarsStore.com ends tonight. Free speech is under attack. We have colloidal silver, 65% off. Super Male back in stock, 30% off. Survival Shield X2, the good iodine, 40% off. Brain Force, 47% off retail. Knockout, 50% off. T-shirt, 75% off. InfoWarsStore.com. Please commit today like Trump's done, like we've done. To sign up for auto ship, you get 10% off, and then support us each month. Cancel anytime or sign up for every 6 months or 3 months, whatever you want. InfoWarsStore.com. We have 25% off on the great products at Embrick's Essentials out of the gates when you sign up for auto ship. 20% off retail. Shampoos, natural healthy sunscreen, bug spray, everything. InfoWarsLife.com. Instead of shopping with Amazon that's Bezos and a globalist and hates America and hates Trump, shop at InfoWarsStore.com. Thousands of items and defeat the globalists. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. We'll be back. Stay with us. CNN is the enemy. CNN is death. We could pick all the MSM, but here's the New York Times. Drug deaths in America are rising faster than ever. They were like, how dare you want kids to die from guns? And I'm sad it happens, but it's a couple thousand a year. Most of it, in crime. And I'm like, there's hundreds of thousands of drug deaths a year from prescription drugs. That's your main sponsors. And now there it is. But before I go any further, this isn't about worshiping a personality. It's not about doing that because I don't care about Hollywood. I don't care about George Bush or Obama. Trump is under such attack. He's delivered so good under such attack that I just think he's not going to be perfect, but he's proven himself so good. The enemy hates him so bad. He's done so much good. I think we really ought to all really thank God for Donald Trump. Just brief comments from both of them because I want to get into Hillary claims she's now turning to prayer. I was praying against her last week on air.
Yeah, was she praying to Satan again?
Yeah, goat's head.
But yeah, about Trump, it's like, yeah, I don't agree with everything he's done, but he is trying. He is trying. That is a big plus.
And he's an American president. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Don't have instant gratification. It's like they hate him. He's so good.
Yeah.
Forget Trump. We should be thanking God for Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. And like you said, we're not in a cult ritual here of praising Donald Trump and anything he does. We'll have things we disagree with Trump about. But
I think he needs more praise. He is our guy. When he has our support, he responds. And if he fails, it's our fault.
But that's the thing, Alex. You never had a feeling that Barack Obama was ever the president of the United States.
No, I know. This is it. This is America fighting for its life. I can feel it.
So that's the support. That's why we get behind Donald Trump, because at the end of the day, he represents us. He doesn't have foreign interests in mind. He doesn't have lobbyists in mind. He doesn't have anything else.
He has prosperity.
America.
He didn't just represent us. He fought for us. He stood up. He didn't have to do this.
He took the slings and arrows.
He probably lost, billions of dollars standing up for us.
He has the whole elite. Oh, he lost billions in his companies. His golf courses are close to shutting down.
Yeah. But he did this for us. So it's like we got to return the favor. We got to stand up for him.
Because he said America gave him everything. He loves it.
Yeah.
He's well known for hanging around with the blue-collar workers. It's not some stunt. He really does it. He doesn't like elites. He buys golf courses all over the world that are racist and opens them to everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. How dare he?
He opened up his companies to gay employees in management 30 years ago. It's just the point is that, and it's not that he's even pushing that agenda, that he believes Christians should be able to live like they want. He's for freedom, ladies and gentlemen, and he's under attack, and he needs your support, and so do we. I'll just tell you in closing before David Knight comes up. I just sent 4 people to Bilderberg. That is expensive. I want to send reporters everywhere. I want to hire more reporters. I want to do more. I want to pay our crew better. So InfoWarsStore.com. We're into the big special tonight. That was Memorial Day. We extended it, and a lot of stuff's selling out. InfoWarsStore.com. Get a Trump is my president shirt for $4.95. That's at cost. Colloidal silver, 65% off. Super Male Vitality. Try these products. See what the Sleep Aid Knockout does. See what the natural deodorant from Embrick's Essentials does. 25% off when you sign up for auto ship. 20% off retail. Take advantage. 888-253-3139. And support our local affiliates. Send them a donation. Become a sponsor. Be a sponsor. Now is the time for the effort. Decades of people before us fighting hard. 60 years ago, 70 years ago, now it's bearing fruit. We're winning on every front. And when you videotape CNN doing a fake report in London, or you videotape something local, or you speak out, or you put out the intel, or you call into C-SPAN, all of it together is wrecking the enemy. There's a war, and we need your support.
Yeah, what amazed me about being at Bilderberg this weekend was the fact that, yeah, we're getting way more press coverage, the highest ever on Bilderberg. But what amazed me was the fact that people showing up to the rally that Owen and I and others put together, pulling people away from the Trump White House rally after it was over to come to Bilderberg, All the people that showed up were mainstream people. These were people that were watching Fox News like 5 years ago and didn't pay attention to InfoWars. Now they're caring about Bilderberg. So
we're winning. Yeah. We're taking over the Republicans. We're taking over the Democrats. Humanity is rising, and we're having a huge effect because our listeners are the heart of this and have supported us, and that's absolutely right, kid.
Yeah.
We're on the march.
People of different backgrounds are standing up and standing together.
And think of all the money Bilderberg spent to make sure no media covered it. We are there saying no. There are people that aren't bought and paid for. 5 more minutes, then David Knight's coming in. Stay with us. Spread the word. Infowars.com. It's an act of resistance. All right, I've been ranting, Kit, and cutting into your time. I appreciate the great work you did. Go ahead and make some points in closing, then Owen Shroyer will, and David Knight's taking over.
Well, like I said earlier, the fact is that Bilderberg, the left, is always controlled by Bilderberg and these other global bodies, and they have this legitimate frustration at the establishment, but they're always steered towards using that frustration onto nonsense issues.
They advertise being leftism as the way you're rebellious. No, free market's the ultimate rebellion because it puts you in charge.
Yeah. And Bilderberg represents everything that the left stood against. You know, you got Bilderberg just like, what, 1.10001% of the population in control? It's like a bunch of old, rich white guys that have been like 10, 12 generations. People give Trump crap for getting $1 million loan and making it into $1 billion. Yet you got the Bilderberg elite that are
just trillions of your tax money.
They've been rich. They're old money rich families. They've been around for like 500-600 years.
And we're not class envy. Just stop trying to get rid of the class altogether so we can't be part of the middle class.
The elitism that is controlling everything and funneling all the wealth and resources to a handful of families.
Vertical integration.
Yeah, and that is not free market.
That's their admitted plan too, total consolidation.
Yeah, and then the left is always against war, but then Bilderberg, it's been documented that they have fueled every single major conflict that's been around for the past 50, 60 years.
Oh, yeah, I was there it was like 8 years ago. They were in Chantilly.
And the left is always about inclusiveness, yet Bilderberg, there's like, less than 25% of the attendees at Bilderberg this year were women. Even less than that were minorities.
I was at Chantilly. I've been there 3 times, and Bilderberg's there. So I've been there twice. You guys have been there the 3rd time. And this guy pulls up, works for the State Department. He gave me his card, but he said, "I trust you, don't burn me." He goes, "There's all these documents. This is Bilderberg with the CIA, State Department, how they were overthrowing the unions, jobs, and then turning the unions into bad things." And it was all the documents, how they did it. It was incredible.
Yeah, because even some of the people that go to Bilderberg, they don't necessarily agree with all of the worst policies of Bilderberg.
Peter Thiel does it. I'm not lionizing him. Great points, Kit.
Well, and Alex, there were a lot of the police officers that were on the scene that were listeners of yours as well.
Oh, I saw. They've talked to me. A lot of them are listeners.
And I think that there's a new momentum, and I think the Bilderbergers are starting to feel the heat.
Well, here's what happened. When I was first there, I guess it was like more than, every 4 years they're there. So it was how many years would 444 be? 12 years ago. Wow, I'm getting old. I was first in Chantilly 12 years ago, and the cops had known we were, and they've been told we're planning violence. A few of them were listeners, and then they kind of left us alone by day 2. The next time, "Hey, Alex, how's it going? Hey, want some Gatorade? Oh, yeah, well, these guys, your camera off? F them. I know they, blah, blah, blah. We're going to win." And then I guess by this time, it was the same cops in Chantilly. How were they?
Well, the cops were fine, and I think that they were a little upset that they basically had to get public funds to basically do nothing and protect these rich elites with public money.
This is a good point. There was a festival in Fairfax County, I believe, down the street from Chantilly. And there was hardly any cops there because all the county cops got pulled on to Bilderberg.
Sure, but I just know the cops liked us by the second time I was there.
But it's not just the cops.
How were they by the 3rd time?
They were very nice. Like I said, they were smiling. They were cordial. They said to say hi, give Alex a shout out, And I will also say this. I'm going to...
See, that's victory.
I'm going to look into this a little bit more, and I don't want to throw this source under the bus because they shared with me some private information, but it's more than just the cops. The other people that are involved, the other people providing security and other things for this event, they also, I think, are more...
Well, they already know. The Marines, everybody hates them.
And but...
Because they all know Trump's in. They get like, Trump's at the White House, we're protesting this. This is the enemy.
And this is the winning team. And that's what happens. People want to be on the winning team. We're the winning team, so join the winning team. I want to put out a few facts here before I get off, Alex. Just to point out the modern day craziness that we're living in with the Overton window. Liberals, this just shows you the mindset of liberals right now. They're more upset. They were more furious over Donald Trump removing the United States from the Paris Climate Accord than they were over the terrorist attack in London, and then they are over...
Hold on, David Knight's not going to mind. You guys, he was part of the show. He'll be happy. Do one more segment with David. I'm going to get out. He'll come sit in this chair. You come make your points. Do one more segment. and then David will host the rest of the show. So David Knight's coming in right now. He'll have his own show soon, so he'll have more time than he wants. And he always does a great job. And I'll have David come in and take over. Please don't forget, folks, big specials, the biggest ever, really, on several products in today.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight here with Kit Daniels and Owen Shroyer. Of course, we were at Bilderberg this last week. Owen was just making a point before we went to break. In the last segment, Owen, finish up with the point that you were just about to get to before you ran out of time.
Well, one thing that I at least hope for people that are in the middle ground right now, as politics seems to have so much gravity, everybody is starting to become interested in politics, is trying to expose the doublethink mindset of the left. What I was saying before the break is just look at the liberals, look at the Democrats. They're more upset over a Paris climate agreement that they've never read, they don't know any details of. They're more upset with the United States getting removed from that than they are over millions of aborted babies, than they are over radical terrorist attacks. I mean, that's just a fact. You can look at their reactions and how they respond to it. Another thing, you know, we just report on the truth about radical Islamic terror, okay? I've never said that every Muslim is an evil person. I've even said many times I've met many peaceful Muslims, okay? So I will sit here and say that there are peaceful Muslims. Not every Muslim is a peaceful or somebody that wants to kill you or stab you or throw gays off of roofs, okay? Those are heretics. But you don't have people on the left admitting that there are violent Muslims. They just completely ignore that, even though there's video in the streets. Again, now, after the London attack, there's videos of Muslim people getting out of their cars, celebrating in the streets after the most recent attack in London. So the liberals will just completely ignore that. And then another thing that we briefly talked about earlier, we didn't make to the story, but we filed the report. You can see it on the Alex Jones YouTube channel. CNN admits man-made climate change. They write a story about how NASA is sending up chemicals into the sky, strontium, barium, chemical mixtures into the sky. They're going to blow them up in the sky, and then they're saying it's a magic light show, and you get to see the new clouds being made, and it's going to look cool. Woo! And even though they've had to now delay the launch of this because the chemicals were going to fall back down to the earth and harm humans, it's okay to put in the sky, though. So thank you, CNN, for covering that as you report on man-made global climate change, but ignore the actual man-made climate change. And then the final thing I wanted to say, too, was front page of the Wall Street Journal, jobless rate lowest in years, okay? And that's what Donald Trump thinks is going to rejuvenate this country, getting people back to work. So he is coming through there. Jobless rate is now at historic lows in recent years.
Spot on. Spot on. I would disagree with one thing you said, Owen, and that would be who the heretics in Islam are. Are the heretics the people that are peaceful, or are the heretics the jihadis? I would say that the heretics are the people who are peaceful. I would say that they're the ones who don't know what the ancient texts
That's what I meant. Thank you for clarifying that.
And yes. Exactly. I know that that's what you think. And so we have to understand that. And I think the CNN photo op, Owen, that we saw is evidence of that. Because why don't we see this massive pushback from true Islam against the jihadis? Well, of course, we don't see that. So CNN has to manufacture it. And as I tweeted out, here's the steps for CNN. Number 1, call central casting. Number 2, get some Muslim women. Number 3, as you can see in that video, position them carefully into a photo op and then give them your scripted narrative about how this is not true Islam. No, it is true Islam. It is true Islam. You have to understand, I got into this immediately when I put out when this first came out. I said, unconfirmed report. Car drove into crowd. 3 men jumped out with knives, slitting throats, stabbing a girl in the chest, so forth. I said, religion of peace. And this woman came back to me and said, very Christian of you. What would Jesus say? And I said, well, what Jesus would say and do is that we have to defend innocent life. And, of course, we know that Jesus went after the bankers. The bankers are the ones who are ultimately behind this. They're the ones who started these wars. They're the ones who are sending our troops abroad and then bringing the jihadis into our country. That's kind of a foreign exchange student program that they've got going from Bilderberg, from the bankers, from the globalists. And so I said, well, you know, why don't you just read what Jesus said and did? She said, why don't you think for yourself and stop reading these ancient texts? Well, you need to read the ancient texts to understand the foundations of our Western society. They're Christian. And you need to read the ancient text to understand the foundations of Islam. It is anti-Christian. It is the cult of death that you see in the streets here. So we have people who are cultural Muslims who don't do any of this. And, of course, you see this unfolding in the Philippines. You've had a large area there that has been Muslim since the 1300s. But you didn't have this kind of conflict that they're having now in the Philippines until just recently. It began to build. First, they demanded that they have a separate government. So they created Muslim Mindanao as an autonomous region. And so they got their autonomous government. And then they got the lowest per capita income of any part of the Philippines because they isolate and ghettoize themselves. And then they had this massive influx in recent years of foreign Muslims coming in who are pushing true Islam, I would say, who are pushing fundamentalism.
Real hardcore Wahhabis.
And, you know, when we talk about fundamentalism, what that means is that you go back to the core beliefs of your religion. That is what is fundamental to it. So we're talking about fundamentalist Islamicists, the jihadis. That is true Islam. And so these true Islamicists come in, and it's like, no. You don't want to have anything to do with the kafir. You must kill them wherever you see them. You must do it for Allah. And the next thing you see, they're slitting throats.
Well, the people the mainstream media is always claiming as so-called moderate Muslims, they're the ones cheering on these terrorist attacks. Yeah, they're peaceful, but they're still cheerleading on, you know, London attack and all these truck attacks and
like the mayor. Don't worry about it.
It's
just part and parcel.
Yeah, this isn't even an attack on Islam, but the problem is that now the orthodoxy is, like you said, it's Wahhabism. It's the fundamental violent Islam.
Yeah.
Well, and think about this, too. Remember, after a terror attack happens, Trump says, this is why we need the travel ban, this is why we need the border wall. And then the entire left media says, oh, my gosh, look at evil Donald Trump trying to politicize a terror attack. Oh, really?
All the time.
Oh, really, CNN? You literally staged an event to politicize a terror attack. No, they don't fall under any attack for that, though. They get to politicize it to however extent they want, not President Trump. He doesn't get to touch it.
You know, one of the reports that I did when we were there was he was so nice. He was just such a nice guy. And that's what his neighbors were saying about him. And, of course, this is a guy who, the neighbors, even though he had been the star of a documentary done by the BBC called The Jihadis Next Door that came out last year, his neighbors still didn't know that they had a jihadi in their midst. This is a guy who, with a bunch of other people, went down and they unfurled a flag. They worshipped an ISIS flag. And then they got into an altercation with the police. The police didn't arrest them. They didn't deport them. I wonder, guys, what do you think would have happened in 1940 when the British were fighting the Nazis if they had a guy parading around in a Nazi uniform with a Nazi flag holding Nazi rallies in the middle of London? I think something would have happened to him by the people. They would not have been that much asleep.
That actually did happen. You remember you had the American Bun Society, which is basically an unofficial Nazi party in America. They were shut down by like 38, 39.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't even go out on the street. I think their leader even got arrested at one point for fraud.
But today, that doesn't happen. Why? Because they have been thoroughly indoctrinated in the government schools to say, don't criticize these people. And as I pointed out to this woman, I said, so you don't have a problem attacking Christians. You will not defend them. You'll verbally attack them as they're being physically attacked by the people that you defend. This is the ultimate in political correctness. And it was absolute political correctness for the government. The BBC is documenting this guy. The British police see this guy here. He's a known individual. And yet what they're telling us today is like, yeah, we knew he was a jihadi. We knew he loved ISIS, but we didn't know that he was planning anything.
Dave, this reminds me of the whole clock kid thing from about 2 years ago and his family. The Obama administration, the mainstream media, were trying to create this appearance of this family as being, you know, moderate Muslims, and this kid was just a tinker, you know, inventor kid and this and that. It was just this whole fake narrative to make this family look like, you know, the peaceful Muslims down the street that you don't have to worry about. And that's why we need to bring more of them in. But it was a complete fabrication. As I said, as I exposed in a video, this kid, all he did was take apart a clock and throw in a suitcase.
And it was actually his dad that did it, that set up the whole thing.
And his dad turned out to be this huge activist who was pulling off stunts like this.
Well, they want to pin us down, though, and because we didn't like George Bush bombing in the Middle East, forcing regime change. We didn't like Obama doing that. But that doesn't mean that we have to take all these people in. They try to say, oh, but look at all the bad things the United States has done in the Middle East. Yeah, we reported on it. We didn't like that, but I still want to protect my self-interest. I still want to protect my country.
Well, the issue is that they use that as an excuse to bring these people in. And going back to my analogy of a guy parading around in a Nazi uniform in the height of World War II in London, what would people have done? They would have attacked him, of course. And that's precisely what they want to do. The people today that are there, the jihadis that are brought in, they don't wear a uniform, do they? They don't self-identify, except sometimes when they unfurl the ISIS flag, they don't self-identify. So they want to get to the situation where, because somebody looks Middle Eastern, or because somebody is, let's say, maybe wearing a turban, and they might be a Sikh, who has absolutely nothing to do with Islam, but then they get attacked by skinheads, for example. They want to create this division, this chaos, which will lead to a civil war. You have to understand the Bilderberg individuals have plotted out this consolidation, this destruction of national sovereignty for a very long time. They're the ones who are behind the regime change in Libya, in Syria, that has fomented ISIS, that created ISIS, that is now bringing this into our country. And they want to create regime change, chaos, and civil war in the West. They're doing it very gradually. This is how it is escalating. Believe me, it's not going to be that much longer before, even in London, you're going to have people being attacked because they look like they're Middle East if this continues. And that is precisely what they want.
Yeah, exactly. It's about turning over this whole thing against radical Islam back into this race war narrative that they control.
Yes.
It's just manufactured chaos.
Yes.
Well, it's amazing, too, how you can have such a radical difference just in a short time span of 16 years where you go from literally saying you're launching a war against Islamic terror, blaming Islamic terror for the biggest terror event in United States history on 9/11, to now saying, oh, these are peaceful people. We need to let them in.
That's an excellent point.
So it's just like, how do we go from that narrative to the complete opposite in 16 years, and the entire public is just remaining asleep on the whole deal?
If you go with the official story on 9/11, it's like we're supposed to go into Iraq, which is the most secular country in the region, because
that's where they went first.
Yeah, supposed ties to 9/11.
Total non sequitur. Just like now they want to.
But now it's like, not only is Iraq a mess, but the whole Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever name it is now in the West.
So after 9/11, they invade Iraq, and now they're going to invade the internet because it's free speech that's the problem.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the very Islamic extremists that we launched the war on terror against under George Bush are invading us in Europe.
All right, thank you guys. Great job in Bilderberg. We're going to be right back. I'm David Knight. Stay with me. We're just talking to Kit Daniels and Owen Shroyer, who were with me at Bilderberg in Chantilly, Virginia this last week. We had a lot of press coverage this year from the European press, not from the American press, but a lot of press coverage from the European press. But most of it was of the don't worry, there's nothing to see, move along variety. And I want to give you two articles from The Guardian, I think, that illustrate the smokescreen that most of the mainstream media does out there, and then a cutting satire that gets directly to the heart of it from Charlie Skelton, who has been a reporter for The Guardian, mainly for Bilderberg. He's been a comedian in the past, and he has biting satire to get to the heart of this. But first, let's talk about the guy who tries so desperately to be funny about this. This is Phil Hode from The Guardian. He says, Chantilly is in the spotlight, inside the secretive Bilderberg's home away from home, because it was the fourth time that they were there. So he says, why would they be in Chantilly, Virginia for the fourth time? And it's interesting because even though they were there for the fourth time, the people who lived there had no idea what Bilderberg was. They had no idea that Bilderberg was going on. They had a festival in the area that was going from the 1st to the 4th. Actually, I think it hung over a little bit to the 5th, but covering the 1st to the 4th Bilderberg meeting. So it completely moved everybody away from Bilderberg, away from any concern, over to the bread and circuses. Don't worry, there's nothing happening here. And then to help that, we have this puff piece from The Guardian, presumably about Bilderberg, but then he talks about Chantilly. He talks about the demographics of it. He talks about the fact that it's a small community. And one of the things that he doesn't talk about is the fact that this small community, even though they're not aware of it, like all the other small communities or towns where this is held, they're going to be paying the security bill. But of course, they will not have it part of that town. They will move it into Fairfax County, Virginia in general. So a much larger jurisdiction so that people don't notice the additional security costs. And some of the people that were there that we talked to said he overheard one of the policemen say, can we pull back some of the police officers that we've got here because the crowds are not as big as you guys thought they might be. They said, no, we want to keep you guys all there. And they were frustrated because they knew that was coming out of their budget. But here's what the guy who was covering what was happening there at the Bilderberg as a smokescreen says. Bilderberg has become, or Chantilly has become Bilderberg's home away from home in recent times, having served as a conference's venue in 2002, 2008, 2012. Sure to be in attendance are the scrum of protesters, alt media, conspiracy theorists, Illuminati watchers, and anyone else keen to see the world elite turn into lizards after supping blood out of the Holy Grail at midnight. But this is what Charlie Skelton has to say. Also from The Guardian, he really understands what's going on. If you look at his article, it starts with a picture of two individuals. One of those individuals is not on the official attendee list. See, now they're all out in the open, aren't they? A little bit. They tell us what their agenda is, or what they want us to think their agenda is. They tell us what their attendee list is, or what they want us to think their attendee list is. But then you stand there and you take pictures and you see these two individuals that he's got right there. Spanish economy minister, and then a man from the World Bank that was not on the official agenda. And this is what Charlie says. He says they like to put jokes out. They're very big about jokes. They like to describe themselves as, quote, a diverse group of political leaders and experts. And he says, well, that looks very sarcastic. He says they're trumpeting the diversity of a conference where less than 25% of the participants are female, which would be a huge step forward, he says, if it was 1963. But he said perhaps by diverse, what they mean is that some of the participants own hedge funds, whereas others own vast industrial conglomerates. That's kind of diverse, right? Some are on the board of HSBC. Others are on the board of BP. Some are lobbyists. Others are being lobbied. That's the diversity that you see at Bilderberg. And then he goes on, but my favorite joke of the year from their agenda is this: the war on information, as if they're concerned about fake news. The people who for 20-plus years got away with pretending that they didn't even exist, and it was after 21 years that Jim Tucker started covering them in 1975. And gradually, as we had the internet and we had Alex Jones come along with documentaries with Jim Tucker and other things, we gradually began to understand, and we just talked to Daniel Estelin a couple of weeks ago, talking about his new movie, The Bilderberg Movie. You can see that at the Bilderbergmovie.com. We've had books written. We've had documentaries done about it. But so now they're trying to pretend that they are talking about something completely different. And as you see these people and you try to pin them down, they say, well, we can't talk to you, Chatham House rules. Well, we got our own rules, don't we? We have laws, we have constitutions in all these different countries. We've had situations where, remember when Senator Tom Cotton, who was there, remember when he wrote that letter to Iran saying, we're not going to have, the next president, if it's not a Democrat, is not going to abide by this agreement, just so that you know. They accused him of violating the Logan Act, jumping in unauthorized into foreign policy issues. What do you think is happening at Bilderberg? We've said that every year. Ron Paul has said they need to prosecute these people under the Logan Act. Nobody from the press is there making that claim now about that same senator. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight. I want to talk a little bit about Bilderberg here. But the key things, I think, this year about Bilderberg that really made it incredibly relevant for people were the withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement and this terrorist attack that we saw in London. Both of those things were intricately tied to Bilderberg. And as I said, most of the people in Herndon, Virginia really didn't know what was going on. And they would pull up and they would say, why are all these people gathered out here? And we would say Bilderberg, and you would see them like, what? What's that? And it's like, we don't have time to tell you. So I shot 4 short videos, 3 to 5 minutes long, put them up there. This is what Bilderberg is. This is how it started. This is the framework of world government that they're trying to lay with their tactics and so forth. And here's where we are. Here's how people uncovered it, how it was hidden for a number of years. And now it's somewhat known in some circles of people who are looking at it, hoping that we can light a fire in people's curiosity so they can then go do their full research. As I said before, there's been a lot of books, there's been documentaries done on it. I can't lay all this out, nobody can, in a single video, in a single documentary, or a single book. But if you are interested, that's what education truly is. You're not filling a bucket. You're not stuffing information to people that don't want it. They have to want to know. If they want to know, they can wake themselves up. They can do their own research now on the internet. When I first heard of Bilderberg, I scoffed at it, just like these people who, most of them drove off. It's like, oh, that's kind of strange. It's weird. These people are crazy. Maybe they think that they're going to drink blood and turn into lizards at night. No, that was The Guardian putting that out. But I was skeptical of it because I hadn't heard of it. And at the time I heard of it, there was no internet to do that kind of investigation. So gradually that information came in. So we just want to get people interested in that. Before I get back to these two issues and how they play into Bilderberg this year, I just want to remind you of the specials that we have, one of them ending. It's a last chance for the Support Patriot Media beginning summer sale that we have at InfoWarsStore.com. That's going to end tonight. Things like Silver Bullet, 65% off retail. And let me tell you something. This is something I always travel with. We're out there in Virginia going around the woods and the trees and stuff. I got a deer tick on me, pulled it off. The first thing I do is I put, even though this is not like a lotion or something, I found that if I get a cut or something that is going to turn into an infection like a tick bite, I always put silver bullet on it. And lately, every time I've used it, not say lately, but every time I have used it, it has kept it from getting infected. So I'm hoping that's going to be the situation with this deer tick bite as well, because Lyme disease, we can talk about that someday, where that came from. Nevertheless, silver bullet. I always travel with it. 65% off. Retail Super Male Vitality back in stock. 30% off. Survival Shield, that's our X2 nascent iodine. 40% off. Brain Force, 47% off retail. I had a guy come over to me. He was a programmer. He said, hey, I've been listening to you on the radio. I want to come over and shake your hand. I hear you all the time. Knew you were here. And he pulls out of his pocket. I said, look, I got Brain Force. I said, yeah, that's exactly what you need. If you're doing brain work, or if you just want to make sure that you can recall things, Brain Force is my favorite supplement. 47% off. Knockout, 50% off. If you're having trouble sleeping, if you're traveling and you've got a change in your schedule or jet lag, Knockout is perfect for that. It's not only does it have melatonin, but it's got a lot of other natural things like L-tryptophan, which is in turkey. And so that's, you know, you always get sleepy after a big meal, but especially when you have turkey. So it's got a lot of natural ingredients, and there are a lot of herbs that are very mild but effective. You find that natural ingredients to help make you sleep and knock out. All InfoWars Trump T-shirts, 75% off retail. This is while supplies last, but the sale will not last. It is going to end tonight. So take advantage of those massive discounts. This is from 30, 40, 47, 50%, 65%, 75% off those items I just told you about. All right, let's go back to this. You know, one of the things when we were flying back last night on the plane, they had the ability to watch movies. It was in the back of the seat. You can pick your movie that you want to watch. I watched Harry Benson shoot first. Now, maybe you know who Harry Benson is. He's an iconic photographer, especially in the middle of the 20th century. The first time people really noticed him was when he was documenting the Beatles' trip to America. But this guy has filmed politicians, celebrities, or he gets these very wonderful, candid shots. And so they did a very interesting documentary with him, and he was at the center of everything for Life magazine, other magazines that he did contract work for, especially in the 60s, 70s, even into the 80s. He still does a lot of work, but he was getting the biggest stars at those period of time. And the idea of Shoot First was that wherever he was, he had to take a picture. There you go. There's some of his iconic pictures. And, of course, one of those is the picture, that one, go back one, where you've got the Frank Sinatra in the mask with Mia Farrow going to this costume ball. And, of course, the pictures of Muhammad Ali. The picture of Muhammad Ali standing next to the four Beatles, dwarfing them. You don't realize just how big Muhammad Ali was until you see them standing next to the Beatles, and he's got his arm outstretched to the right. There's the one with Frank Sinatra and Mia Farrow, which was kind of strange. But that was the big ball that was done by Truman Capote. Anyway, it was a very interesting documentary, but one of the things that was most interesting about it, I thought, was the controversy about the fact that he took pictures of Bobby Kennedy as he lay dying in that hotel room as he was assassinated. And I've talked to Dr. Pepper. I'll talk about that in just a minute, but he got into a lot of criticism because he was right on top. They're taking pictures. At one point, Bobby Kennedy's wife looked up at the camera and put her hand up like that in desperation, like, no, don't do it. And he said, my job is to show what is happening. He was not happy. He was a left-leaning guy. He liked Bobby Kennedy. He was friends with Bobby Kennedy. He liked his politics. He was not happy to see Bobby Kennedy dying. There wasn't anything that he could do. He wasn't a medical doctor. But he was there to document what was happening. And he would take the pictures and he would turn them over to his editors. And his editors, he said, would then decide if they were going to use it or not. He was just there to show people what the reality was. And that's the two different levels, you understand, of information when we talk about fake news and real news. One of it is just to clearly document what is happening there, to show people what is happening. That's really kind of pure journalism. The other part of it is the analysis. So when we see the tragedy of a man dying on the floor, Bobby Kennedy dying on the floor, what is behind it? Why did the man kill him? Who killed him? Was it Sirhan? Or was it other individuals? And I interviewed Dr. Pepper. You should go back and look at that interview. He did a lot of investigation into that, a lot of investigation into the Martin Luther King assassination. It's not as clear-cut lone killer as they always like us to say. They always come up with a conspiracy theory. Usually it's not a conspiracy. It's a lone wolf killer. One man acted alone, Nothing else to see here. Go on. Let's forget about it. We want to investigate the deaths. There he is, laying dying, and that's probably one of the pictures that was taken by Harry Benson. We want to know why he's been shot. We want to know who shot him. And as I was flying back, I thought, this is the essence of what we have today. In most cases, we have the mainstream media that doesn't even want to show Bilderberg. We show up and we say, look, here's our society is bleeding out. Our society has been shot. We know who did it. We want to investigate who did it. It's these people back here, behind these trees, in this suburban hotel. They've taken over this private hotel. They want to take over our private lives. They want to take over our countries. They want to shut down our nations and create a supranational organization that answers to them, that makes them rulers of the world. They want to meet together secretly, and this is what they've been doing for decades. We want to do the analysis. We want to not only show what is happening, we not only want to show the bleeding corpse of Western civilization that is lying there bleeding on the floor, but we want you to understand who pulled the trigger, and we want to stop it. We want to do something about it. We can show you that, but you're going to have to be the doctors to do something about it. You're going to have to get upset enough that you will change things. You know, one of the articles that was sent to me while I was gone by Darren McBreen, self-driving cars will double as security cameras, says the Intel CEO. I've told you this many times, haven't I? We've all have. Alex has said it as well. So they're going to use these things to track and to tax you everywhere you go. They're going to know everything about you. But of course, they will also use it as a surveillance device against everyone. They're putting devices in our cars that will constantly talk to our insurance company, talk to the government. They're going to have not only talking cars that are talking about us, but they're also going to have talking cars that are talking to the road, to the infrastructure, telling it what we were doing at any given time. Well, he went 2 miles over the speed limit, send him a ticket right away. So you just see maybe a little ping, you just got ticketed. You've been noticed, citizen. You will get the increase in your insurance rate and a fine that will be in the mail. Or maybe they'll just debit it from your cashless bank account. That's what is coming. That's how they will take over our society. But he says, hey, the benefits, and this is the way CNBC covers for this Orwellian dystopian future that they're creating. People like the people that we see at Bilderberg. CNBC says, the benefits of having self-driving cars go far beyond automatic parking or fewer accidents. I don't need a complicated, expensive computer program to park my car. I'm sorry. It's a skill that anybody can learn. In spite of the fact that we've got all these comical videos on the internet of you can see people trying to park and having a big time. You know, you can't actually learn it. Most people do this. There's a few people who can't. That will always be the situation. Just like you will always have bugs. You will have these computer programs that are created by human programmers, and they will have problems. Believe me, they will have problems. So you will still have failures. They just won't blame the computers. They'll blame you or something else. But the Intel CEO says, driverless cars will double as security cameras. And he said this at the Code conference in California. He said, cars are going to be out there looking, so the next time an Amber Alert comes up and they're looking for a license plate, the cars should be able to find that license plate quite rapidly. And they say, well, and here's CNBC covering for this. They just throw this out there. This is going to be great. We'll be able to find missing children. As if. You know, when we see these dystopian robots that are walking and running and climbing and relentlessly coming. Some of them are humanoid. Some of them look like insects. And they tell us, well, we're going to use them to go into places like Fukushima that we don't want to send humans. Or we're going to use them to deliver medical care to people. And it's like, you're going to use them to hunt people down, just as you showed us in the Terminator. You can see the arms that are already as cylinders. They just put the weapons in them. Anyway, they say the idea could bring up concerns about privacy, but the CEO has already thought of how to minimize those worries. He said, we'll have to put limitations on it. We'll have to encrypt that data. We'll have to make sure I can't tell that it's John's car necessarily. Yeah, right. How are our privacy protections working out for us right now? You feeling like your privacy is being protected? Is our privacy being honored by the NSA, by the FISA rules? And he goes on. He says, I think there'll be rules, there'll be new areas that we'll have to explore, but the amount of social good that can come from that far outweighs those concerns. We'll just have to deal with them. Yeah, we do have to deal with it. We have to get a populace that demands a new privacy bill of rights. We need to do it as soon as possible. We need to lay down what these issues are and say, you will not do this. And then we need to have the guts to enforce that as well. Because we already have a wonderful Bill of Rights. We have a wonderful Constitution that is totally, totally dead. Totally dead. Contradicted by things like the Patriot Act that they don't even bother to pretend to obey anymore. We just had, and here's the big story, folks. The big story is that the Obama administration used our surveillance state like Watergate burglars. That's the big story that nobody in the mainstream media wants to talk about. They talk about their Russian fantasy, their Russian red herring conspiracy, dragging that smelly fish across the trail so the hounds can't track down the fox. But what they don't want to talk about is the fact that we had the FISA court itself. This is not an anonymous political operative talking through the Washington Post or through Fox News or whatever. This is the FISA court itself saying that the Obama administration's surveillance state broke the FISA Act. They also say that the FBI violated the law. So the Obama administration violated the law, the FBI violated the law, but don't worry about that. We're going to take a look at the last meeting that Jeff Sessions had, and we're going to try to entrap him with some kind of a process crime, saying, oh, well, he didn't recall every single meeting every time he shook the hand of the Russian ambassador, so now we've got him on perjury charges. Remember that it wasn't rape that they came after Bill Clinton for. It wasn't sexual assault that they came after Bill Clinton for. They came after him for perjury for a consensual relationship that was not a crime, but he committed perjury. It was process crime. That's the game that they're trying to play with the Trump administration. And yet, as they're talking about Senator Sessions, did he meet a Russian ambassador? The same day that you have the most powerful people in governments across America as well as Western Europe meeting with the captains of industry and others privately, secretly, and there is no control, no investigation, no interest in the fact that they're meeting. That is the hypocrisy that we're seeing here. So we have to understand where this is headed. We have to look at, because now they're trying to get Jeff Sessions. New demand, says the Daily Mail, new demand that FBI investigate Sessions for perjury as the Bilderberg group was opening. That is the key. But as I said before, there were a couple of issues that made this very, very timely. Number one, as they began this meeting, and on their agenda, as I pointed out, Charlie Skelton, great reporter from The Guardian, saying they like to make jokes about things and say we have a diverse group. You know, this guy is from HSBC, this guy is from BP, and so forth and so on. They were also saying, will globalization be slowed? They didn't say, will globalization be stopped? Will globalization be reversed? You see, it's groups like the Council on Foreign Relations. By the way, the people who were with the Trump administration who attended this were, with the only one exception, I'm not sure if Wilbur Ross is a member of CFR. The rest of them were part of the Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations has been dedicated to destroying American sovereignty and establishing a global governance since its inception, going back to Woodrow Wilson and the League of Nations and so forth. And they've had an outsized influence in the State Department. We need to understand that. We need to recognize it. And we need to counter that. Ronald Reagan was not a member of the CFR, but then when he became president, he appointed 300 plus CFR members into the State Department. What difference does it make if they're the ones who are creating and crafting this, and you can't follow everything these people are? If you don't, that's my big concern with Donald Trump, is that I'm afraid that because he doesn't put like-minded people in these positions, that his own people are going to be subverting him. We know that the Republican establishment is going to be working hard to do that. But as they're beginning their Bilderberg conference, saying, will globalization be slowed? He not only put up a big stop sign, he dug a pothole in front of their parade that they can't get around for a while. And so this is the arrogance of these people, thinking that they're going to win on this. And then we see the other aspect of this, and that is the Islamic terror attacks that we saw in London. I did a report. CNN is ISIS? Yeah, okay. But Bilderberg truly is ISIS. That is where this all began. The regime change programs that we saw in Libya, creating chaos, turning it into an arms bazaar, funding, creating, training ISIS, then bringing them over here from Syria as we create chaos and civil war in that country, then doing it here in Western countries. That's what we need to understand. And we need to understand, and we're going to talk about false flags when we come back, so stay with me. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, and, I would be remiss if I did not thank the people who heard about Bilderberg, who traveled, many of them overnight, in order to get there on Saturday. We called a flash mob demonstration. We had a pretty good crowd there at noon. It got messed up because Donald Trump called a rally 10 to 12 at the White House. So that kind of split our reporters, split the crowd, so forth. But many people dedicated to stand with us, to stand against the New World Order. I really appreciate those of you who traveled all that distance to stand there and to show that you understand what is going on. And we really appreciate those of you who stand with us, who support us, who buy our products. It's one of the reasons that we have put this sale that's ending tonight together. And if you take a look at the massive discounts that Alex has put there, that's we've got up to 75% off some of these products. The Trump T-shirts are 75% off. Silver Bullet, colloidal silver is 65% off. Things like Brain Force, 47% off. So take a look at these sales that are ending tonight. We really do appreciate your support. Thank you so much for standing with us in so many different ways. Those of you who couldn't be there, you have stood with us and supporting us over the years, listening, buying our products, and we want it to be a win-win situation. One of the things that we've added recently is a new line of household products. And you take a look at Emmerich's Essentials line of products at InfoWarsStore.com. These are things that are suntan lotion, sunscreen, bug spray, mouthwash, body wash, shampoo, natural deodorant, things that we wanted to cover in the past, but we didn't have a good source that did not have hidden toxic ingredients. So we found somebody who's a patriot, and we did a deal for a private label of these products, and now we've got them at a significant discount over what you would pay at health food stores, at grocery stores that would carry this, major stores that would carry it, all natural ingredients, basic household products. So take a look at that too. I think the many people who showed up there, a lot of them were very excited about the products and what they had done for them in their life. So we're happy that we're having a positive influence on people in many different ways. And believe me, we really do appreciate your support. Now, I want to throw this out there for people in a little bit of time that we got left. As I saw Prime Minister May come out and say that the internet is a breeding ground for terrorism, I thought, really? Isn't this interesting? Just as we would always see Barack Obama pushing gun control after a shooting, now Theresa May is pushing for internet control after this killing. Because they've already got gun control. Now they're coming for your free speech. And so we understand what is behind this. And I want to point out that when we talk about a false flag, there's a couple of different false flags. Let's talk about it. There's at least three that I can think of. One is where you've got a real event, but it gets co-opted for their legislative agenda. So they kind of use it as a false flag. So that's one of them. Think about this, and maybe you can send this suggestion to me. I think we need to unpack this instead of using one word to describe all these different types of false flags. Maybe we need to have some way to redefine this. So if you've got a good idea of what we could call this, tweet this to me at Libertarian on Twitter. Let me know what you would call this. We need to come up with a name the baby, because we've got three different levels of deception that the government uses. One, they can take a real event and they can use it for some phony solution like Theresa May is trying to do here. That's what I believe is happening. Or you can take a situation where, let's say like Pearl Harbor, you know that they're coming, but you shut down the advanced warning systems and you make sure that it's allowed to happen. So it's a real attack, but because you got an agenda here, a purpose, you want them to be able to attack, so you shut down the warning systems. That's also in place here. We also knew that they brought them in. They invited these people in. They documented that they were jihadis next door, so forth and so on. And then there's the false flag where it's all totally baloney. So they are the actors. The government agents are the actors. They pretend that they're somebody else. They create an event and then blame it on this other group. So we got three types of false flags as I see it. Let's come up with some different names on that. Send that to me at Libertarian on Twitter. Join me tonight for the InfoWars Nightly News, 7 Central, 8 p.m. Eastern.